Alone, broken, drowning in pain.
But one smile could change everything.
Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Was Depressed and Fell in Love with Mina Ashido movie. Before we start, please go support deadsShadow for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. All my life I really wanted to be special, to be someone who would help others with a big smile. That was my dream, but when I thought I'd never have a quirk, it all started. Who would have said I'd have one? But I think I would have preferred not to have it. Everything lost meaning and reason, but she came to change everything I believed about the world. First day. A young man could be seen walking calmly towards the most prestigious hero academy. His gaze was serious, but denoted nervousness. He slowly noticed the enormous doors that would lead him inside the place. While he was walking, he saw another student stumble, so he decided to avoid him and hurry to get there. Walking through the place, he saw several people enter an auditorium. He quickly entered it and was able to witness all the applicants in the place. He quickly took a place and waited in silence until a light came on in the center, revealing a hero he did not recognize. The smiling hero who stood in the center of the spotlight, bathed in light, gave an excited shout. Hello everyone. It's great to see new blood this year. I can't wait to see how talented everyone is. Everyone was excited to see the hero, who smiled happily as he turned on a large screen on which various data were displayed in great detail. Izuku was just listening silently as he wrote, quickly understanding the meaning of the test and making a list in his mind of his strategies, all completely silently. Minutes passed and the written test ended. The hero explained that the results would be given at the end of the physical test, which he would then explain, using the voice of a television presenter. The hero smiled widely when he saw the attention everyone was paying, revealing the image of several robots which had numbers on top of them showing their score. When he was about to explain the last enemy, which had not been shown yet, he was abruptly interrupted, making him lose his smile. The young man stood up with a serious look, observing the hero, all being seen by all of whom seemed confused by the interruption. Excuse me, but I think there was a mistake in this. Here in the pamphlet it says that there is one more enemy that has not been mentioned or shown at any time, so I ask if it was a mistake and that it would be in bad taste because. This is interrupted when all the lights focused on the blue-haired man who covered his eyes, blinded. Everyone in the place fell silent when they saw the hero, who kept his smile without letting his eyes be seen, applauding, leaving everyone nervous due to the atmosphere that was suddenly generated. The hero just kept his smile while the blue-haired man watched him nervously, all of this being seen by a green-haired young man who kept a curious look. You know you've won the prize for being the first to piss me off on applicant day number 7111, so I'm kindly asking you to sit down and listen carefully, little boy, so shut up and listen. Everyone saw how the boy quickly sat down, embarrassed, still being focused on by the lights. The sound hero smiled again as he showed the last image on the screen. As I was about to say before a big observer ended up interrupting me, this enemy that you see on the screen is called 0 points. It is an enemy that will not give you anything when you defeat it, so do not try to fight it or you will not come out well, in addition to the fact that the test will last 10 minutes, so give it your best. If you have everything clear, give me a big hey. Everyone just shouted in affirmation as they looked at the hero, who kept a smile on his face. The young green-haired man just remained silent while everyone left the place to prepare for the next test, thinking about one thing. I wonder who will be the first to attack the 0 points. It's more than obvious that some idiot will look for it just for fun. As the minutes passed, a large number of participants could be seen waiting in front of a huge door, which led to a replica of the city. The green-haired young man looked at the door while warming up with a serious look. The only thing I have to do is eliminate robots and get point size. It sounds too easy, which must have something hidden, the way he referred. The 0 points makes me suspicious. He continued muttering with a serious look, making those around him nervous. However, a little far away from him, there was a pale-haired man who had an equally serious look. The pale-haired boy just stretched in silence, looking sideways at the other participants without any interest. They all really are pathetic looking at a boy with glasses and annoying. To have a position in this place, I just have to finish off as many of those things in the shortest time possible. It can't be that easy, or can it? He wondered with a smile on his face as he looked at the large door, but he saw something that left him blank. He could see a green-haired boy doing a few warm-up jumps which seemed all too familiar to him. He unconsciously took a few steps while looking shocked. He had to be sure that it wasn't someone else. He wanted to make sure he wasn't imagining things. That's why he moved in her direction. Just when she was about 20 steps away from him, a sound left him stunned, noticing that it was the one that indicated the start of the test when he saw everyone running in a hurry, leaving him behind annoyed. President Mick just laughed as he saw some stragglers who were waiting for a count or some previous signal which just came suddenly without waiting for anyone. Don't expect something predictable like a sign, as a hero you must move at the first moment to be able to arrive on time, so run young promises. Everyone rushed but were surprised to see a flash coming in at the first moment. The young man ran with all the strength he had at that moment, overtaking some people and leaving the sound hero amused. A few minutes later. A lot of fighting could be seen between the challengers and the robots. On top of a roof, a green-haired man with some injuries could be seen, and a serious look at who threw a piece of destroyed metal over the ledge. Well, with that last one it would be about 52 points. I think that's enough to get in. He was sitting on the edge of a small apartment breathing tiredly as he looked at the rest of the applicants who were finishing off all the robots they found. He took out a notebook where he began to write while he watched the applicants until a wall was demolished on the street below. A huge explosion lit up the street, revealing a lot of traces of destruction, while a serious ashen-haired man came out of a wall. But that it would be 60 points. I expected some difficulty in this damn test, but it turned out to be just a waste of time. He kicked a piece of metal while breathing deeply. Then he turned his eyes towards a shadow that caught his attention. Slowly looking up he saw the origin of it, leaving him silent. His body tensed and his hands shook as a twisted and disordered amount of memories came to his mind, leaving him speechless at the sight of someone he hadn't seen in many years. Izuku was still sitting on the ledge, but his gaze darkened as a flame of annoyance ignited in his eyes when he saw the ashen-haired boy who seemed to have seen a ghost. The pale-haired boy could only murmur in a low and incoherent voice, a nickname he hadn't said for many years. Deku. Babble. All while the green-haired man looked at him with a dead and angry look. Because that day two sides of the same coin finally met. A little bit of history, Izuku edited. Hello. Silence. I guess this thing is working, are you sure this is necessary? Silence. Okay, where do I start? My name is Izuku. I was born without the ability that most people in this generation have, a gift. From what I remember, in my childhood I dreamed of being a hero similar or equal to the current #1 hero Almight, but unfortunately, lacking something so common today, my chances remained quite stagnant. Even after my diagnosis, my dream of being a hero did not die, because even with everything against me, I wanted to be a hero who could transmit that feeling of hope and kindness that the current #1 hero inspired. Over the years I was a victim of contempt and abuse from my classmates and teachers. Apparently, being gifted is frowned upon and is something that, in everyone's eyes, is a mistake. The voice is heard asking a question. He's not important in this, right? He's not the only one who bothered me, so it's not worth talking about him. Can we continue? Silence. Well, where did I end up? Oh yeah, even with the contempt and rejection of people, the only one who was by my side was my mother. Maybe she didn't support me in the same way I would have dreamed of, but at least she didn't abandon me or treat me like garbage. Although my head hurts a little thinking about it, you know. Something slipped through my memory. But I do remember the last time I saw her and what she told me. Silence. After the incident my memory is somewhat blurry, I only know that I ended up in a home, you know where orphans and those who are abandoned in that place go. Time passed, and as expected, no one wanted defective merchandise. It was discouraging how interested they were in me, but the moment they were told I didn't have a gift, they lost interest. How did they know I didn't have a gift? I don't even know. No one was familiar to me, I didn't know where I was or how I got there, I just knew I was alone. I remember imagining that my mom would come through the door of the room where they let me sleep while saying it was time to go home, but it was obvious that that wouldn't happen. About 2 years after I arrived at that place, an elderly woman saw me fall out of a window. Why did I fall? One of the other kids gently pushed me while insulting me for being gifted, but that doesn't matter. Silence, but a murmur is heard. Well, because of the fall, I had broken a leg. How do I know? Well, the bone sticking out of my leg proved it to me. Well, I don't know if it was luck or destiny, but that woman had healing powers. She helped me and treated me under the watchful eyes of the people in charge of the place, who were nervous. After I was cured, I called the authorities and reported the place. The child abuse at the home was evident even in the water they gave us. I couldn't believe it was all over. I thought I would go to another similar place, but I was very surprised when I heard the old lady ask me if I wanted her to take care of me. I stayed silent and gave the most obvious answer. I said no and ran away. Silence. What? Why are you looking at me like that? I was a little kid, I didn't trust anyone after everything they'd done to me. I remember that I just cried, shouting that they would let me go with my mother. The old lady asked me where she was. When I told her, she ended up deciding to adopt me and prevent me from going where she was. Time passed and I realized that she really wanted to help me, so I live with her to this day, and I consider her my grandmother, even though I don't remember having one before. I discovered that she worked at the UA, the most prestigious hero academy in the country as a nurse. How unexpected, right? She knew about my lack of gift, but she still decided to give me some blood tests among other tests to determine if it was true. That day at the age of 8, after having been through so much shit, I discovered that I did have a gift. That day was the first time in a long time that I hated the idea of having a gift. Can you imagine suffering for years, abuse, discrimination, among many other things, because of a mistake? I literally went crazy, and my grandmother had to give me a sedative while I screamed like crazy. After a few days he told me that it was an unknown gift and that the activation method or anything like that was unknown, so it was a dead end to know more about him due to the high risk that he would kill me, I think because of something he said, but I don't remember. I got used to the idea of not having a quirk, I didn't want to know anything about that, but thanks to my grandmother, my dream of being a hero had returned, she supported me saying that I didn't need such a thing, and that I could help in another way. I studied some medicine with her to apply to be a doctor. Which didn't happen because of one last thing that happened to me, the day I met my childhood idol for the first time of whom I hadn't asked myself what had become of him for several years now. That day was like any other, I was running errands and helping an old friend of my grandmother with some moving stuff. When the old man came in to drop off some stuff, I heard an explosion in the distance, so I went and saw him, a villain who had a boy trapped. He was wearing a high school uniform. He was being held by a villain made of something similar to mud, apparently he took him hostage to avoid the heroes, he was a total disaster. The boy apparently had a quirk to increase his resistance, according to what the heroes said, who still didn't do anything, and I noticed it. I noticed the fear in his eyes, and how he seemed to accept what was about to happen, and I couldn't stand it. Silence. It's obvious I did it. I ran with all my strength towards the villain who used the boy as a shield, thinking that he would attack him. What I did was use a fire extinguisher on him, which I had hidden between some sheets that were on the floor due to the destruction of some apartments in the alley. Thanks to that, it crystallized, and I managed to free the boy who seemed about to faint, all of this being seen by the heroes. What I didn't count on was the recovery time of the villain, who looked very angry and showed it by trying to kill me, which he didn't achieve for one reason. That was the day I met Almight, after he suddenly arrived and finished off the villain with a simple blow. I could see the sky again in amazement. That day he asked me what I wanted most in the world. And I couldn't help but ask him. I don't know if I asked him why he was my biggest childhood idol, or just the small, almost non-existent wish I've had since I could remember. I asked him if someone without a quirk could be a hero. All my life I've been called Quirkless, so I wanted to know his opinion on the hero among heroes and how he saw the Quirkles. And I think you know his opinion better than anyone, right? Silence, but a slight laugh is heard. The words I always wanted to hear, the ones my grandmother had said to me, although not in the way I wanted, the ones I waited for my mother to say, but that I never managed to hear, nor will I ever be able to hear. The blonde man was seen in front of a green-haired young man who was silently looking at the sky without knowing what to say. Even without a gift, even in that situation you can be a hero. Not everyone would run into danger with the intention of helping when they know the consequences. In the most dangerous situations, the nature of a human being comes out, and let me tell you that you are a true hero at heart. The boy fell to his knees as he remembered his mother's joyful laughter calling him. So young man, even though it will be 1,000 times harder, 1,000 times more terrifying, with that spirit you carry within you, you can save anyone you can reach, you can fill even those in the dark with hope. Young. You can be a hero. That day I understood how much I wanted her to see me wherever I was. I wanted her to see me achieve my dream. After that he asked me if I wanted to be his successor. I didn't know what to answer. Even with all the shock of the moment, I accepted. Of course my grandmother noticed that something strange was happening when I was absent on the day of my studies. One day she followed me and found me cleaning a beach. I was scared because I thought she discovered the secret, but I was surprised that they knew each other. How did I know? Well, my grandmother hit Almight in the balls when she realized the situation. Apparently, she discovered that he had chosen me as his successor and proceeded to hit Almight, who was scared and ran away from her. Time passed, about 10 months to be exact, and I mixed studying with my grandmother and Almight, physically and mentally preparing myself to take the exam at the UA. Well, I don't want to mention that having grown up in the place, I knew all the teachers and well, maybe some of them became fond of me. Silence. Almight told you about that. Why am I not surprised? Besides, it wasn't my fault. I was playing with Nezu. I didn't mean to demolish the dining room. Cough. As I was saying, I made friends with some teachers from UA, but even so I tried even harder to be worthy of being there. After all, I must somehow thank you for how much you have helped me, so I will always be grateful. Well, I think this wasn't as bad as I expected. Thank you very much, Melissa. In addition. Izuku. Kitsuki. He looked coldly and empty at the bomb with legs which remained paralyzed. Kitsuki. Deku, where have you been all these years? He looked at him with surprise and confusion. Izuku. Kitsuki, where do you think children without parents go? I really have nothing to talk to you about, so go your way and don't bother me with unnecessary questions. He said in a cold manner while crossing his arms and walking with the intention of moving away, but is stopped by a hand on his shoulder. Itsuki. Deku, wait, do you know how long my parents were looking for you? He said annoyed. Izuku. Let go of my shoulder grenade with legs, he said pushing back Igu. Itsuki. What are you saying Deku? He got very upset and prepared to fight. Izuku. Get out of the way explosive garbage. He got the same way as Bakugo getting ready to fight. They both started running to attack each other when an explosion made them stop in their tracks. Participant. Run at 0 points. Everyone started running away from the Titanic robot very quickly. The green-haired man was going to avoid it too when a scream made him stop. Izuku. What? He sees how a chestnut was going to be crushed by the robot's big foot, so he ran and pulled it out of the rubble, preventing it from crushing it. Izuku. Almost, are you okay? The brown-haired girl was surprised by the speed of the boy. Izuku lowered her in a safe place and ran towards the robot. Who would say that I would be the idiot who would run to attack this robot? Green rays surrounded. Itsuki. What is that flash? No, it can't be. He saw how the green-haired man ran towards the robot. Izuku. You know I haven't tested this power against anyone other than Almight. Takes a big leap towards his enormous arm and then starts running towards his head, and even though I understand it, literally his body is filled with green lightning. I can't help but feel some fear when using it. Takes a big leap, but you know what? Lights his fist in energy. I was really waiting to use it. He clenched his fist with great force. Smash. Suddenly in a green flash the head of the big robot exploded, leaving many really impressed. This in the air began to fall, but was pushed off the debris of the big robot to then fall to the ground safely. Izuku. Uff, that hurt. It's good that I realized about using this power in my whole body. I don't want to even think about what would have happened if I used it without thinking. Really it hurts. He gets up and starts walking towards the brunette who was still surprised. In a room full of cameras, All Might and a mouse dog bear or whatever were watching what happened closely. That was close, I sigh with relief, but look at the director with concern. Nezu. How strange, said he looking at the screen. What's up? Were you impressed by what that young man did? He said with a smile. Nezu. Yes, he really did it, but there's something else. You noticed it, right? He looked at how All Might's smile disappeared and he looked at him in confusion. Well, he just put his hand on his chin to think. Nezu. That robot is programmed to detect life but not attack it, only scare it or drive it away at most, but it shouldn't be possible for it to attack in that way. That could easily kill someone. So, look sideways at All Might who looks at him without being able to believe what he was thinking. Someone sabotaged him. He saw how Nezu just nodded and then spoke. Nezu. Well, that's just an assumption, so it shouldn't matter for the moment, he said in a serious manner as he started to leave, leaving All Might alone. Looks at the camera where the green-haired boy is seen being taken to the infirmary, young Midoriya. In the infirmary, you can see a green-haired man sitting being treated by an old lady. Izuku. Thank you very much, I really appreciate it. He only receives a small blow to his head, ouch, and that's why it was. He grabbed his head with a confused look. RGE. Why? Mick said not to do the stupid thing you did, sighs, but at least you only have some minor scrapes and burns from the explosion, nothing serious, which is a relief. Izuku. I'm sorry, he said somewhat embarrassed by the old lady's scolding, and then got up from his chair and started walking towards the exit. One thing, recovery girl looked at him waiting. Izuku. How is the girl I saved? He said without turning around. RG. Haha, well he's fine thanks to you, so don't worry about that. He smiled and then saw the green-haired boy leave the infirmary. Wow, you got someone just like you. Outside the infirmary, a green-haired man is seen walking towards the exit of the UA towards his house. Izuku. Entering a more or less large house, really well equipped. Well, today was a long day. He walked to the kitchen and prepared something to eat and then went to his room. Izuku. He sat on the bed and looked at some photos of him with his new family and just sighed. I really miss you mom, even though they are also good people. But he looks at a photo of him as a child, dressed as All Might and his mother who was carrying him with a smile. I really miss you. He just lay down and closed his eyes and then went to sleep. Meanwhile, on the other side, a tired Katsuki can be seen entering his house. Katsuki. Old lady, I'm here. He just walked to his room and then lay down on his bed staring at the ceiling. TSK, that nerdy idiot. He only remembered his childhood with the green-haired boy and what happened with his mother, in addition to her disappearance and all the years without knowing anything about him. Well, this is all good, come on, it's longer than the previous one, I'll try to do them, so leave your vote and comment. I will also explain Izuku's relationship with his new parents and how his training with All Might was. Well, goodbye. Memories of the past. The blonde man could be seen lying in his bed staring at the ceiling while thinking about the past. 10 years ago. You could still see a small green-haired boy being beaten by a blonde man and his henchmen. Izuku. Stop Kakin, it's wrong. He gets up from the ground with great difficulty while protecting a girl who was scared. Bitsuki. Come on, you can't do anything, you don't even know what quirk you have, so you're just a Quirkless Deku so. He hit his fists with an innocent smile. Forget that nonsense of being a hero. A moment later you can see a green-haired man lying on the ground with many wounds, tired and with some burns. Girl. Hey, are you okay? Tell me you're okay please. She was kneeling beside him with teary eyes while trying to help him. Izuku. Yes, I'm fine, I'm used to it. He starts to get up slowly. You're fine, right? He looked at her with concern, making the little girl blush. Girl. Yes, I am. Thank you very much for helping me, but why did you do it? You didn't have to do it because of me, they did this to you. She looks down sadly, feeling guilty. Izuku noticed and laughed, surprising the girl. Girl. Why are you laughing? She was confused. Izuku. Why do you think I would let Kakin hurt you like he did me? You know, I prefer him to hurt me than the others. Of course it's something silly, but I couldn't stand to see someone suffering, besides, I couldn't let them hurt someone so pretty. The girl blushed. The green-haired boy realized what he said and got very nervous. Girl. Thanks really, she smiled, blushing at the green-haired boy. Sorry to ask you, but what is your name? Izuku. Oh well, I'm Izuku Midoriya, and you? He was nervous. Girl. Izuku. I'll call you Izu. This made the little boy blush, and he could only try to calm down. My name is. She is interrupted by the scream of a woman who was her mother who came to look for her. Oh well, my mom is here. It would be better if I went. Thanks again for being my hero. She gave him a little kiss on the cheek and ran away, leaving a stone-red Izuku like a tomato. Izuku. Izuku.exe has stopped working, waiting for response. All this was seen by a blonde boy who had a serious look. Bitsuki. TSK Deku, you are really stupid. He only left until he reached his mother. Bitsuki. Where the hell were you, brat? She pulled him by the ear while he was just being dragged home. A few months later. The blonde, red-eyed boy could be seen looking at a table as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. Bitsuki. Where the hell is that idiot? He thought about why the green-haired boy hadn't gone that day. The day passed and Kitsuki didn't see Izuku. He was missing that day. He noticed that the same girl that Izuku had saved, who had become friends with the green-haired boy, was also looking at the green-haired boy's place with a worried look. Kitsuki. How strange, that nerd is almost never missing. He was deep in thought when an explosion alarmed him. What the hell? Everyone evacuated the school quickly, but Kitsuki noticed where the explosion was coming from, alarming him and running towards the green-haired boy's house as fast as his small legs could allow until he arrived at a scene that left him paralyzed. There were police officers, ambulances, firefighters and heroes who were in front of the green-haired boy's house, which was on fire. Kitsuki. No, Deku. He ran to be stopped by a pro-hero who was surprised by the child who was screaming and kicking to go home. Hero. Kid, stop, wait. Kitsuki ignored him and just screamed while creating small explosions and continued struggling until he heard something that paralyzed him. Doctor? That's the situation. Well, I'm leaving. The doctor just looked down while the police officer he was talking to took his radio to talk. Police. Well, 2 bodies have been confirmed, one of a woman, and he looks down and then speaks. Kitsuki just went blank, his mind disconnected when he heard that. He didn't know what to think. He just fell to his knees while his body just trembled. He watched as the house was consumed by flames while soft drops of water fell from the sky. All the people in the place just kept silent at the news. Hero. Let's go, we have to find whoever is responsible for this. He gave the order and the other heroes nodded to start leaving the place, leaving a small blonde boy who was just kneeling, watching the fire. Hours passed, and a woman with red eyes arrived at the place, along with a man who approached the child to hug him and cry in the rain. Days passed and nothing. Weeks passed, and he noticed that the girl who had pink hair and skin had left. Months passed, and he only saw how his mother did not sleep at night. Years passed, and he could only move forward, becoming stronger and stronger. He regretted so many things, but what he regretted the most was how he destroyed the dreams of that green-haired boy. He did not stop admiring him. This destroyed him little by little, until the day came to take the test to enter the UA with a simple promise to be the #1 hero, but he remembered again and again what he heard that night. Police. 2 bodies were confirmed, one of a woman and one of a man. Apparently, there is a missing child. It is presumed that he was kidnapped by those responsible for this. Look for the child now. The other police officers nodded and then left the scene. Present. Kitsuki. Where have you been all this time, Izuku? He said with his eyes lowered, not knowing how to tell his mother. First meeting. You can see a green-haired man slowly closing his eyes to fall asleep. Where am I? What's going on? Who am I? It was what was my name? I don't remember, wait, now I know what he called me, I am. A static sound could be heard, and suddenly a room was seen in which a small boy was seen crying while looking at a PC screen while holding a toy of his idol. Mom, can I be a hero? The location changed and the child was seen being beaten over and over again. Bitsuki. How useless you are. Come on, use your quirk. What good is a quirk if you can't use it, hey? The scene changes again to a doctor's office where the little green-haired boy and his mother were seen looking at a doctor in surprise. Doctor? I'm sorry, but it would be very dangerous for you to become a hero if no one knows what quirk you have. I'm sorry, but I should give up on that dream, kid. Is that you? Why? I don't understand, why do you let them say that? The scene changes again, seeing a little green-haired boy listening to his parents arguing. It is completely useless, it is useless. Stop, please don't say that. You just see a little boy crying in his room. I remember my name now, Deku, is that true? I'm so useless. Why does this happen? I hate this, I hate it, I hate them, I hate them. An entire class was seen making fun of Izuku while holding a notebook. I hate them. Izuku. Opening his eyes slowly, what was that? He stared at a photo of him with his mom and then got up and prepared to go to UA. While that was happening, a ruby eye was walking with a serious expression as he headed towards the UA. He looked very silent and thoughtful. Bitsuki. Where are you? He looked up to enter and reach a classroom with a large door. What the hell is with this door? He just sighed and then entered and saw his new classmates. He noticed a redhead talking animatedly with a blonde. He walked along the path without paying attention to them and sat down looking at everyone with an annoyed look and then put his feet up on the table while he thought. Ida. Hey, you shouldn't do that. You should show more respect. That table must have been made by someone hoping it would be for a future hero, he said, moving his hands robotically. Bitsuki. Hey, who the hell are you? Robocop? Or some stupid lookalike? Stop bothering me, Four Eyes, he said with annoyance. Ida. What are you saying? I shouldn't act that way. Are you really here to be a hero? He said, annoyed. But at that moment the door opened, revealing a pink-skinned girl who looked tired. He stared at her for a moment, then was surprised and said just one thing. Bitsuki. Raccoon. He said, surprised and annoyed, getting everyone's gaze. Mina. Hia. It's you, she said, surprised and annoyed by the nickname he had given her in kindergarten. Hiroshima. Well, I feel like you already know each other, right? Tell me, Mina, who is your friend? He said with a smile as he approached Mina, who looked annoyed. Mina. He is not my friend. She said, annoyed, while Hiroshima tried to calm her down. Bitsuki. Stop yelling. Mina. What if you're yelling? Bitsuki. Because I'm the only one who doesn't look ridiculous when he does it. Haminari. That's what he thinks, he whispered to Mineta, who just nodded but was heard by Kitsuki. Bitsuki. What did you say, bleached blonde, and what the hell is a goblin doing here? He said, creating explosions while looking at them murderously. Mineta. Hey, I'm not a goblin, I just didn't grow much, that's all, he said with a depressive aura. Haminari. Hey, perversion doesn't let you grow, friend, he said, putting his hand on his shoulder, only to shake his head in denial. Bitsuki. TSK whatever, he sat down with annoyance and then looked at the door as if he was waiting for something. Mina. Sighs with annoyance and then sits down and begins to socialize with the others. If he is here, perhaps I better stop thinking about that. Everyone started talking for a few minutes when the door opened, revealing a green-haired boy who looked tired. He just sighed and walked towards the only empty stall without paying attention to the ruby eye, who was surprised, as well as a pink-haired girl. He got up and walked slowly towards the green-haired boy and stood in front of him. Bitsuki. Hey Deku, he thought about what to say, he didn't know what to do, he really wanted to know where he had been all these years, but something told him that he had no right to ask such a thing. Izuku. Heh, he looked up in surprise and looked at the ruby eye with annoyance. Are you back, Igu? What do you want? He said with annoyance. Bitsuki. He just clenched his fists and looked at him. What? This is all you're going to say? Where the hell were you, Deku? He said, very annoyed by his attitude. Izuku. What do you care about that? He said, getting up from his chair to look at him with hatred. Bitsuki. I don't care, you idiot. Do you want me to kick your ass? He said, creating explosions. Haminari. Oh damn, here we go again, he said as he stood behind Kirishima, who was trying to calm them both down. Kirishima. Hey, I think you should calm down, bros, he said, separating both of them. Bitsuki. Don't get in the mind, woodpecker, he said, annoyed. Izuku. Calm down, you grenade with legs, he said, then sat down and sighed. Bitsuki. What did you tell me, Deku? Kirishima continued to hold him back. Izuku. What you heard, C4, he said, annoyed. Everything could get worse until the door opened without anyone noticing, and a sleeping bag crawled towards the teacher's desk from which a disheveled-looking black-haired man came out. Asawa. You guys are so noisy, he sighed as everyone looked at him in surprise and then thought one thing. All. A lazy guy, a drug adult, does he have weed? Asawa. Anyway, sit down in your seats, he said, lifting his bandages, making everyone sit down instantly. Well, it's a bad way to start the day, don't you think? Nobody spoke and they just looked at each other nervously. Well, I'll be your teacher and we'll start the day with some tests, so let's go. Everyone looked at him with surprise and fear, getting up and following him. First day tests. Class 1A could be seen heading to change for the tests that Asawa was going to give them. Hiroshima. Wow, I wonder what kind of tests we'll have. He was a little nervous but excited. Haminari. I don't know, but this teacher is scary. Did you see his face? He said, a little nervous. You could see a green-haired man who was finishing changing while listening to the conversation, all seen by an Ashen-haired man who was unusually quiet. Ida. Well, it's better to hurry, we don't want to keep the teacher waiting. Everyone nodded and then went outside where everyone was waiting for instructions. Asawa. Well, we'll start with something simple. I hope they don't ruin it. The first one will be the troublemaker, he said, pointing to Bakugo, who came forward with a serious look. Asawa. Well, tell me, what was the furthest you threw the ball in your previous school? Itsuki. It was 95 meters. Asawa. Well, now do it with your quirk. Everyone was surprised by that and looked at the ash-haired boy who smiled sinisterly. Itsuki. Shinii. A big explosion surprised everyone to see how the ball shot out like a rocket into the sky. Asawa. Showing the score distance he achieved. Everyone except Izuku. 750. Asawa. Well, all the tests today will be done using their quirks. Everyone got excited about that. Hiroshima. Wow, that was very manly. I want to try that. Haminari. I can't wait. Mina. It will be very fun. She was excited when a voice scared them all. Asawa. Will it be fun? Well, if you see it that way, he put on a sinister smile that scared them, then the last one left on the leaderboard will be expelled. Everyone tensed up at this. Zero. He can't do that, can he? Ida. Well, everyone was nervous until he spoke again. Asawa. Well then let's begin. He kept his smile. Time skip. Izukuxmina. I was bored, I could only use one for all up to 20%, at most in the exam I used a little more, but it really is difficult to control this power, but I can't give up, otherwise I could finish my dream sooner than I thought. Now all that was left was the last test, which is the same one that Katsuki did when he started this. Asawa. Well, that was the last one, he said, writing it down until he saw another name. It's ready, it doesn't have an end, I just have to finish this and then go to sleep. By the way, Midoriya Izuku comes forward. Izuku. Okay, I walked to where he told me and got ready. Asawa. Well now. Izuku. 1 for all 10% HAAAA. I threw the ball with the force I could use and looked at the teacher. Asawa. 397 meters is all you have to offer. What a disappointment. I just smiled, confusing everyone, and then grabbed another ball. Izuku. I can try again, sensei, I said to see how he shrugged and let me try again. Izuku. Let's see how about the 20%, I said to myself and then heard the teacher give the signal. Smash. I screamed loudly to see how the ball shot into the sky. I felt like my fingers were burning, but I had a smile. Asawa. 850 meters, he smiled impressed but still looked creepy. Well, that's all, let's see the results. We all walked to another space where we saw the stalls. Izuku. Let's see, number 4 isn't bad for barely knowing how to use this quirk. Okay, let's see who came last. I see all the names until I look at one that is familiar to me, but I ignore it when I hear a scream of surprise. Mineta. Impossible. Izuku. What? Why are you shouting? Are you in last place? I asked, somewhat confused, and then looked at the board to read the last name. Toru. Who is Toru? Toru. Oh no, I only saw a uniform which was moving as if it was crying. Izuku. So you are Toru, but why did you scream? I said, looking at the dwarf, even though he is not tall, but he is similar to a sick child. Mineta. Because I'm surprised I'm not the last. I only saw him smile innocently. For some reason that look on his face made me feel uncomfortable. Asawa. Well, you know what I had said about the fate of the last one on the list. Everyone tensed up and I looked at how the girl got nervous. I just sighed and then spoke. Izuku. I don't think I should do it, I said with a serious look that surprised everyone. Asawa. No. Why not? I could see sensei looking at me waiting for a good answer. Izuku. First, with this test alone you can't know what a student's abilities are. First, because no one knew about this before. Even though a hero must be prepared for everything, he can't end the dreams of someone who has worked hard to get here. Maybe his abilities aren't the best, but you're here to help develop our full potential. It seems unfair to me that you try to free yourself from more responsibility by doing this. So, if you're going to expel someone, then let it be me. What the hell am I saying? Well, I don't care at this point, sorry mom. Everyone was surprised by what I said and looked at sensei, who spoke again. Isawa. So that's what you think? Well, you didn't have to act like that, it was just a joke. He smiled in a funny way. It's worth saying that everyone, and when I say everyone, was in shock by what he said. Well, go change and then go back to the classroom. Understood? You will have normal classes and then you will go home. We all nodded and began to walk. A day passed, the classes were really common. I could feel that the others were watching me, but when I looked they no longer did it. The day passed until it was time to leave and I just took my things and then left. I really didn't want to talk to Katsuki, so I just left quickly until I reached the exit when I heard someone calling me. Wait. Izuku? What? I turned my head and noticed a brunette next to the boy with glasses and the girl known as Tura and a girl with pink skin. For some reason everything seemed to stop for a moment. She seems very familiar to me. Uraraka. Hey, it was really scary what he said about expelling the last one, wasn't it? Ida. But how did you do in the entrance exam? You managed to see through the truth. You really are someone admirable. I really don't know how to tell you that I didn't know about anything when that happened. Duru. Yes, I really appreciate it very much. Very much. Very much. I was able to look at how she was grateful to me. Izuku. No, don't worry about that. I moved my hands as a sign that I was okay. Uraraka. Your name is Midoriya Deku, right? Izuku. I just clenched my fists and then sighed. No, really, my name is Izuku. Uraraka. Oh, it's just that since I heard the explosion boy say to you Deku this or Deku that, I assumed that was your name. Izuku. That's not right, your name is Ichaku Uraraka, yours is Ida Tenya, you're Turu, and you're… I stared at the girl who hadn't said a single word since she arrived. Mina. I'm Mina Ashido. Well, I have to go now, bye guys. She left in a hurry. I noticed sadness on her face. Izuku. Well, I'm leaving too. See you tomorrow, I said, then went home tiredly. But she, who was she? Well, that's all. Leave your star and comment. I really like writing this story, so without further ado. Goodbye people. Memories of the past too. The pink-haired woman could be seen walking sadly to her house. She quickly entered and announced that she had arrived, then she went up the stairs to enter her room and closed the door. She went to her bed and then lay down and looked at the ceiling sadly. Mina. Really, don't you remember me perhaps? He is alone and cries silently, then opens a drawer from which he takes a small blue box. He opens it and sees a photo of her as a child with Izuku and his mother. What happened to you, Izu? 10 years ago. The little Ashido girl could be seen walking with her mother to her new kindergarten. Mina. So this is exciting, isn't it? You'll be able to make new friends and do different fun things. He just smiled as he walked beside her. Mina. Yes, mommy, it will be fun. I want to make more friends. She was jumping from one side to the other while laughing and talking to her mother until they arrived at the place. Mina. Behave well, make lots of friends and have fun. I love you very much. Mina. Yes, mommy, I love you too, bye bye. She finished saying goodbye and ran inside very excited. Laughter, it's the first thing I remember. Fear, it's what I felt every day. Sadness, it's what I felt when I saw you all. Loneliness, it's what I had with me every day. You could see a girl walking sadly to the patio. She was waiting to leave that place and just suffer in silence when a gray-haired boy approached with 2 boys. Katsuki. But look who we have here, it's the heroine raccoon. The 2 boys laughed as they surrounded her. Mina. Please leave me alone, I didn't do anything to you. She was scared and just hoped that a teacher would arrive. Katsuki. You know, maybe you're right, but I don't like you, you're just another extra. The boys laughed while she tried to run, but tripped and fell to the ground. Hahaha, but how stupid are you and still want to be a heroine? Mina. Please don't hurt me. She was just crying while all she heard was laughter. She just closed her eyes and mentally called her mom to save her. In the blink of an eye, she saw the Ashen-haired boy fall to the ground from a blow to the face. She was really surprised by who was the one who attacked him. Katsuki. Wow, good hit for a Deku. Katsuki got up while laughing and only saw how the green-haired boy was trembling. Ahahaha, you're just a Deku, this is wrong, Kaken. Please stop, tell me you're okay please, because you helped me. Because I couldn't stand to see you suffer. The little girl could be seen running with a smile and a little blush as she headed home with her mother. Mina. Wow, you look very happy, Mina. Did you make any friends? Mina. Yes mommy, his name is Izuku and he is someone amazing. She gave a big smile to her mother and then arrived home. Several months later. Mina could be seen looking out the window with a smile. Mina. When he arrived, it's strange that he arrived so late. He began to worry when he saw the empty table of his best friend who had not arrived yet. The whole day passed peacefully. There were no signs that the green-haired boy would arrive. She only worried about that. Mina. How boring, what is Izu doing? she only remembered the green-haired boy playing with his All Might toys next to her and just laughed at how he was when it came to All Might, but a loud bang pulled her out of her thoughts, alarming everyone in the place. "Teacher. Children, let's go outside quickly in order." No one heard and just ran scared. She was just pushed and fell to the ground when everyone had already left. She left too. Mina. No, it can't be. She was just paralyzed seeing a lot of smoke coming from where Izuku's house was. "Izu, please no." Suddenly she saw how the ashen-haired boy ran towards the place of the explosion. She only worried more about that and also ran away. While she tried to assimilate everything, she ran until her little heart stopped when she saw her dear friend's house burn like that. She was paralyzed. She didn't know what to think. She just stood watching from behind a car. She saw how the ashen hair screamed and kicked to get in when she heard something that finished destroying her. Police. 2 bodies have been confirmed, one of a woman and one of a man. It is believed that the child was kidnapped by villains. This devastated her. Could only watch as the ashen hair fell to her knees. She just cried in silence and ran away from that place, hoping it wasn't true. Several days have passed since it happened and they don't know where she is. I found out about her mother. Where is she? Weeks go by and nothing is the same. I don't like it. I don't want to stay here. Months go by and I decided to leave. I hope the next place is better. Just I want to know where Izu is. Just that. Hiroshima. Hey Mina, are you okay? Mina. Huh. Yes, I am. Why do you ask? She was a little tired, but she had to get her act together since the UA entrance exam was that day. Hiroshima. Well, maybe because you were looking at your notebook for almost 20 minutes and we already arrived. This made him alarmed and he hurried Hiroshima to get to the test on time. Both young men got off the bus and ran until they reached the entrance of the academy. Hiroshima. So this is the UA. What excitement, don't you think? Mine. Mina. Yes, it will be incredible. We will enter no matter what. Hiroshima, let's go or we will be late. I will fulfill my dream. I will do it for both of us. Izu, I promise you, she said, to which Hiroshima nodded and they ran hastily until they reached a large hall. A while later Mina could be seen shooting acid at a robot. She had a big smile on her face while fighting the robots. Mina. Phew, well that was the last one. I wonder how things will go for Hiroshima, she said, walking calmly around the place when a robot appeared. She looked at it calmly and sighed. Well, more points wouldn't hurt me. She just walked towards the robot to break it when a rock fell on the robot, alarming Mina. Mina. But what? She couldn't finish speaking when the ground shook apocalyptically. She ran away while screaming and waving her arms because of a ridiculously large robot that came out from between the buildings. Run it 0 points. Mina just ran without looking back, scared until suddenly she heard an explosion. She looked back to see that someone had destroyed the robot. She was amazed it was quite far away, so she couldn't see who was responsible. She tried to go to that place when the signal that the test was over. A few days later the pink-haired girl and her friends celebrated the fact that they achieved it. The days passed until the day came when she would have to go to the academy. Mina. Well, everything will be fine. It's one less step to worry about. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled sadly. I did it, haha, I did it, Izu. She looked at her watch and then grabbed everything in a hurry. Why? I was running late for the first day of school. Present. Mina. Just pressed the photo and then changed her sad expression to a determined one. No, I won't give up now that you're back here. I'll bring you back, Izu. Whether we win or lose, we will do it together. The green-haired man could be seen running in a hurry because he was late to the UA due to a certain incident with a Katsudan stand. Izuku. I can't believe I'm late for the second day of school. At least I've already had breakfast. He ran faster until he reached the entrance and then increased his pace to reach the door of his classroom. Well, second day. I hope it's better than yesterday. He enters and the first thing he sees is Hiroshima buried in the wall. Well, Kaminari and Mineta pulled him out with a crowbar and Bakugo shouting Shinii. Izuku. Why do I bother, he said with a twitch in his eye and then sat down and waited for class to start. Asawa. Okay, shut up, savages, and pay attention. Let's start, he said tiredly and then got out of his sleeping bag. Everyone calmed down and the class began, which was really ordinary until the door slammed open. I'm walking in the door like a normal person. Kaminari, it's All Might. Zero. How great. Everyone was very excited and Asawa was asked to tell him something and then leave. I hope you know what happened. Well, I'm here to give you hero classes. He said excitedly, cheering everyone up, and for that, we'll have combat training. At that moment there was a silence from beyond the grave. While All Might smiled, everyone looked at each other and then at All Might. Hiroshima. Training. Katsuki. Of. Izuku. Combat. The three of them had an excited and determined look and then All Might pressed a button from which some boxes appeared. For that you will need these, he said pointing to the boxes. Everyone was surprised by the contents and got excited. Uraraka. These are our hero costumes. Mineta. Finally. My super suit, he said, throwing himself into the box. With this no woman will resist me. He laughed in a sinister way while the others just ignored him. Well, go change and we'll see each other where we'll train. He looks at Izuku and makes a sign to him. He understood and followed him. Everyone went to change. Mina. Watching Izuku leave with All Might, I wonder what will happen. I hope it's nothing bad, sighs to be seen by Toru, who saw her with confusion. Toru. Hey Mina, are you okay? He said with concern and then didn't receive a response. Mina, hey, he pinches her, surprising Mina. I asked you if you're okay. Mina. Well, I was fine until you did that, don't worry, I'm fine. Toru. Yes, of course, if you say so. She is not very convinced and quickens her pace. Mina. I must make him remember me. She also quickened her pace. Meanwhile, with the green-haired guy. Izuku. So what happened in the test to enter the UA was not an accident. Someone sabotaged that robot. I already said that it seemed strange to me that it attacked like that. He was in a thoughtful manner, while All Might just watched him. It seems so. I want you to be alert, shonen, in case something happens, he said in a worried way. Izuku. Don't worry about that. He gives a smile to All Might and then sighs. I'll be fine. You're the one who should be more alert. Maybe it's to find you. You didn't think about it, he said with his arms crossed, surprising All Might. It's true, I hadn't thought about it. Well, shonen, you better go get ready with your suit to start class, she said, returning his smile. Izuku. Okay, I'll go get ready. He left quickly, leaving All Might alone, who just smiled. Every day I am a little more surprised by shonen. This river to then run to the place where the class would be held. Meanwhile, class 1A was changing quietly until a perverted goblin noticed something. Mineta. No, maybe. He approaches the wall, leaving the others confused. Is it possible? Everyone looks confused at Mineta, who just laughed madly. A gift from our ancestors. He kneels and looks at the sky ceiling. I knew that you hadn't abandoned me. Hiroshima. Hey, what's wrong, Mineta? Haminari. Yes, what's the scandal? Mineta grabs him and brings him closer for a second. Kaminari screams with happiness, leaving the others confused. Ida. What's going on? Is something wrong? He said, not understanding why they were acting that way. Mineta. For this reason, my friend, 4 eyes, he said, showing the small hole in the wall, which made the boys blush, except for Bakugo, Todoroki, and Izuku. With this gift we can fulfill our darkest dreams. Ida. No, that's wrong, get away from there right now. He was holding Mineta while Kirishima was holding Kaminari. Mineta. Come on, don't be like that, aren't you curious? Everyone got nervous. Izuku. Look, this surprised everyone, who was paralyzed since they didn't expect it from him. Wow, Mineta, Kaminari, you have to see this. Those mentioned got rid of his grip and ran to see through the hole. When they were about to see, they receive a blow to the head, leaving them stamped on the ground. Kaminari. But why? You betrayed me like this, he said, sticking his head out of the ground only to receive another blow. Izuku. Because it's fun, he said with a smile and then grabbed a small stone and sealed the hole. This is enough. Ida. Thanks, Midoriya, I'm really glad you're not like those two, he said, making a gesture with his hands. Hiroshima. If it's true, what those perverts were doing isn't manly. All this was seen by Bakugo, who had a serious look. Everyone left and headed to the copy of the city ready with their hero costumes. Hiroshima. I love my hero costume. Hey Bakubro, your costume is amazing. This one looked pretty lively while Kitsuki just kept his face serious. Uraraka. Iida-kun looks amazing, your suit looks like a robot, she said excitedly. Iida. Thanks Uraraka-san, but I don't see Midoriya anywhere. He was looking for Izuku but couldn't find him. Usui. Wasn't he with you, Jeru? Suddenly, a green-haired man arrives with a smile. Izuku. Well, let's start with the sensei, he said with a calm look. Everyone was surprised by his suit and All Might smiled at seeing his successor. Well, this will be a training to demonstrate your capabilities when in a situation of this caliber. I hope that each one of you makes an effort in this, because this will be one step closer for you to become heroes without comparison. Everyone had a determined look, so give it your all plus ultra. All plus ultra. Izuku. Let's see what you're capable of. Kitsuki. Bakugo. Izuku looked at Bakugo in a serious way. Kitsuki. He looks at Izuku in the same way. Deku, I'm going to find out what happened to you. TSK. Well, that said, let's begin. Clash of Ideals Part 1. You could see Class 1, which most of the teams had already decided on. Okay, the next team will be Izuku, Midoriya and Mina Ashido. This surprised Izuku slightly. Well, Mina was between nervous and excited about this, and the other would be the young Kirishima and the young Bakugo. This left everyone surprised, since Izuku and Bakugo looked very friendly, unlike Mina and Kirishima, who motivated each other. Well, everyone to their places, both teams went to their positions. I almost forgot the hero team will be Bakugu's, and the villain team will be Midoriya's. That surprised everyone, while Izuku smiled sideways. Iida. Good luck Midoriya. Uraraka. Good luck Deku, she said with a big smile. Mina saw this and for some reason felt an annoying tickle. Usui. Be careful, Jiro. Izuku. Don't worry, we'll give our best, he said with a smile, and then Mina imitated his smile. Everyone to their places. Everyone got ready and waited for the signal while the rest of the class watched through a screen what was about to happen. Haminari. How nervous, who do you think will win? Momo. Everything will depend on how they act and how they work as a team, she was seen looking at everything with a serious expression. Uraraka. I'm sure Deku and Mina will win, she said with a big smile. Toru. Yes. She was just as anxious as everyone else. Todoroki. Midoriya Izuku, he looked somewhat uneasy about something that was on his mind regarding the green-haired boy. Everyone ready? Both teams could be seen nodding, in that case now. With Mina and Izuku, they were both in front of the bomb talking about a plan. Izuku. Well Mina, Bakugu is probably already on his way. I don't think he's coming with a plan given how he is, so he'll attack head-on, so we have to act quickly Mina. Hey Mina, are you okay? He said, somewhat worried, to the pink-haired girl who was distracted. Mina. Hey, excuse me, I was just thinking about what to do, I really hadn't thought about anything after she got together with him. Izuku. Oh I'm really glad, then let's think of a plan together, what do you think? He said with a somewhat animated smile. Mina. Oh okay, she was a little nervous, but she had a determined look. Izuku. Well then Katsuki will surely attack no matter what. An explosion interrupted them as a door flew against the wall from where Bakugu and Kirishima came out, the latter somewhat nervous but happy. Kirishima. I guess we're here. He watched as his partner created small explosions showing his anger. Katsuki. So you played it safe, Deku. He said with great annoyance and then stood in the middle of the room next to Kirishima. Mina. Damn, what are we going to do now? She was a little scared by the Ashen hair and her murderous look was like a deja vu from when she was little. Izuku. Even today, he said clenching his fist showing anger which caught the attention of the three. You're still the same trash Katsuki, he said with a look of hatred that surprised Bakugu. He still wasn't used to the green-haired boy addressing him like that. Katsuki. How did you tell me Deku? Almost in an instant he pointed at her and took out the grenade-like glove, a ring, followed by this, a huge explosion was caused that shook the entire place. It was directed at Izuku, but when he saw Mina, he would push her so that she wouldn't get hurt and would receive the full explosion without being able to dodge the attack, being thrown against a wall. Mina. Izuku. She ran away alarmed when she saw her friend crash like that because of her. Kirishima. What are you doing? That's not manly Bakugu. He grabbed him by the arm after that he didn't have time to stop him when he attacked like that. Katsuki. Let me get in the way. I didn't kill him, I just knocked him out, now it's time for that stupid paper match crap. So we can win this. Said annoyed Kirishima, he just sighed in defeat and walked slowly. When he was about to touch the bomb, he heard a laugh that froze his blood. Izuku. Haha really that hurt, he began to get up slowly leaving everyone surprised. Mina. Izuku are you okay? She was worried about the state of the green-haired boy who kept a determined smile. Izuku. Yes, I'm fine, I really can't believe they let him have something like that. Hey, this isn't over until I say so. He said hitting the ground in front of them cracking everything so that Kirishima and Bakugu fell 2 floors down. In the room there are monitors. Haminari. Damn it. I don't believe that, this one was paralyzed like the rest of the class for something like that. Iida. Sensei. Don't you think I should stop him? This is getting out of control since Bakugu caused the explosion. He was worried looking at the fight that was developing before his eyes. Young Bakugu is really scary, this is getting out of control. I think I should stop this, but he looked at the screen carefully, watching how his successor stood up with the help of Mina. I really want to see how much young Midoriya has improved. Sighs, let's wait a little, the heroes have time left. Back with Izuku and Mina. Mina. Whoa Izuku, that was great. She said in disbelief of the boy's power. Izuku. He thanks Mina, but this is not over, Bakugu will not stop, we will have to stop him until time runs out. Mina. Yes, and I highly doubt that Kirishima is hurt, his quirk will blow him up really hard, she said looking at the big hole in the ground from which only dust came out. Izuku. I guess there's no other choice. Mina was confused by that until the green-haired boy spoke again. Mina, could you take care of the bomb? I'll try to hold them off as long as I can, I need you to do this, okay? Mina was surprised, but before she could give an answer a scream full of anger came from the hole. Izuku. Okay, sighs, here I go. He jumped into the hole without thinking, leaving Mina surprised, who could only watch as his figure disappeared into the dust. Mina. Be careful Izu, she said with an expression of concern and fear for the green-haired odders. You could see how Izuku fell quickly, but using an air smash, he would fall abruptly on the ground, which was completely dark due to dust and debris. Izuku. Damn, my fingers hurt a lot, but compared to the rest where can it be, he said in a whisper when he heard a loud bang behind him as Bakugo launched an explosion at point-blank range that sent the green-haired boy flying against a pillar. He fell to the ground, sitting down and hurt while he caught his breath. Itsuki. You're a pain in the ass Deku, I tried to end this quickly and look what you do, said referring to the whole place. I don't even know where the idiot with the pointy hair is. This is over, said pointing and preparing an explosion, but said while looking down, what happened to you? Where the hell have you been Do you know how annoying it was to see my mom crying worried about you? Do you have any idea? No, you don't even talk to me and I have no right to ask, but Izuku just remained silent while grabbing his injured shoulder with his head down. Izuku. So? That surprised Bakugo, who only stepped back a little. Why would I care? Bakugo only got angrier and angrier as he prepared an explosion. Do you have any idea? He slowly got up, releasing a large amount of green rays, of everything I lived through perhaps. He raised his face revealing a cold and empty look. You're right, he jumped in a green flash and in an instant was behind him, surprising Bakugo with his speed. You have no right Kitsuki. Clash of Ideals Part 2. A huge explosion surprised everyone present in the camera room. They couldn't see what was happening in the hole where Bakugo and Kirishima had fallen, followed by Izuku, due to the large amount of dust and the fact that the cameras were destroyed. They could only see Mina standing in front of the bomb, very worried. Ida. Sensei, this is very dangerous. I was really worried about the situation because of the little I knew about Izuku. He and Bakugo had a history that was far from friendship. Uraraka. Deku-kun, she was very worried and could only helplessly watch what was happening. Asui. They are nowhere to be seen. Is there any way to see them, Jeru? She tried to see, but it was impossible because of the cameras where Mina was. Momo. The cameras in that area were destroyed by the landslide caused by Midoriya, so you can't see anything sensei. This is really getting out of control. I think I should stop this, somewhat anxious and nervous about the situation. Damn. This was really unexpected. That flash of power from Midoriya was really surprising, but is this really getting out of control? What do I do? He just looked at the screen, somewhat anxious for his successor and the other students. Let them finish. Everyone was surprised to see Todoroki, who was keeping a serious look on the screen. Ida. But he was interrupted by Tokoyami. Tokoyami. He's right, I should let them finish. Everyone was surprised by that and looked at Almight, who was nervous. Haminari. So I wonder what's going on inside. Nervous I think I should let them finish. Hyoka. What? How can you say that? Look what happened, idiot. Duru. Bakugo is really scary. At least Mina is okay, she said, somewhat relieved to see her friend unharmed. Sato. I just wonder one thing. Everyone looked at him for a moment. Zero. What thing? Back where Izuku and Bakugo were fighting. Bakugo crashed hard into a wall, letting a lot of air escape from his lungs due to the tremendous blow to his stomach. Izuku. What's wrong Katsuki? He said in an angry way, not that, shine this and shine that, are you just a conceited and annoying idiot? He clenched his fists tightly to try to hit Bakugo, but he dodged it at the last moment, giving an explosion to Izuku's side, causing him to retreat quite a bit. Katsuki. Who do you think you are, Deku? He got up angrily and prepared to attack Izuku. I'll kill you for that. Izuku. Then, he took a big leap towards Bakugo. Come for me. At that moment they both collided fists. Bakugo released an explosion sending both of them back. Izuku quickly gave him a series of blows, surprising Bakugo with the force of these. He quickly created a large explosion to make him retreat and throw many more at him to damage him more. Izuku dodged most of them, but he was very worn out by having the 10% activated. He was tired and hurt by the first explosion that Bakugo made at the beginning of the test. Katsuki. You are very annoying, Deku, he said, creating another explosion. My hands hurt a lot, shiny demons. He created another explosion sending Izuku to a rubble. Answer me. He threw another explosion. Tell me what happened that day. He attacked again, but Izuku dodged him and knocked him down. Izuku. Why do you care about Katsuki? He said coldly while quickly grabbing him and then throwing him. It's not your problem at the end. He charged more power up to 15% to give a shower of blows to Bakugo, leaving him paralyzed by the strength and agility of the green-haired man. We were not friends. Stop bothering then. He gave him an upward blow, leaving him on the ground very tired and hurt. Bakugo. He just looked at Izuku without knowing what to say. The anger he felt clashed with the memories of when he bothered him, and they didn't let him think when he noticed something behind Izuku and began to get up slowly. I really don't know what to tell you, Deku. Izuku just prepared to attack him again. Just one thing. He raised his hands up pointing to the exit of the hole. Izuku was confused by what he was doing, but ignored it and went to attack him when something hit him with great force, sending him into the air. Itsuki. You're not the only one with a plan. Just at that moment Izuku was in the air, shiny. He just shouted and then created a huge explosion, sending the green-haired boy to the sky. Meanwhile in the chamber. Haminari. What the hell happened? Everyone is surprised by what they saw. Izuku shot out of the hole like a rocket, crashing into the ceiling, letting out a cry of pain, and then falling near Mina, followed by Kirishima, who landed softly, and Bakugo came out of the hole, propelled by his explosions. Uraraka. It can't be. Ida. Both were down after all. Midoriya can't handle both of them. This is wrong. Everyone is worried about the green-haired boy's condition. Shonen. He looked attentive when he noticed something that surprised him. Back in the fight. Kirishima. I really didn't expect Midoriya to be so strong. He beat you up, he said, looking at the green-haired man lying on the ground. Mina. Izuku. She was running to his side. Please wake up. She was really worried and terrified by his injuries, and it was obvious he was unconscious. Please. Wake up. Itsuki. Let's get this over with, he said seriously and with his head down as he walked towards the bomb, but was stopped by an acid shot in front of him. Mina. You. She clenched her fists and looked at him with hatred. Idiot. I won't let you do it. She threw acid left and right, surprising both of them and causing them to retreat from her attacks. Kirishima. Damn, I've never seen Mina like this before. She could easily seriously hurt Bakugo, even me. He was having difficulty dodging Mina's constant shots without being able to get closer. Itsuki. Stop bothering Raccoon. With an explosion he sent Mina crashing into the wall. I've had enough of this. He walked slowly and passed by Izuku. He looked at him for a moment, and when he was about to continue someone grabbed his foot. Okay. Izuku. And Noda. Lyu. He tightened his grip a little. That you do it. Bakugo just looked down and clenched his fists. Itsuki. Pointy hairs touched the bomb now. He immediately went towards the bomb, ready to put his hand when a shot of acid fell near his feet. Kirishima. It can't be. Hey Mina, it's really necessary to continue. He hardened his whole body and then ran towards her. Mina. I don't care. Izu tried hard for that, clenched her fists and shot a more constant stream right in front of Kirishima. I will too. Kirishima. Great. He was surprised when the floor cracked. Oh, again, really? He fell in an instant. That's not manly. Only the rumble of when he fell to the floor below was heard. Itsuki. What? He was going to attack Mina when an alarm confused him. The villains win. In the chamber. It felt strange to say that, but Izuku, Midoriya and Ashido, Mina's team wins, he said with great enthusiasm, followed by the rest of the class. Haminari. Did you see that? It was amazing. Poor Kirishima, hahaha. Ida. How lucky that all this is over, sighs to see how Almight finished the test. Yuri no. Deku-kun and mine won. Asui. Mina really showed off at the last moment to push back Kirishima and Bakugo. Jeru. Duru. That Izuku, that Mina, yes. She was more than happy for what the Pinky did when she faced both of them. Todoroki just watched silently with one gaze on Izuku. Todoroki. There's no doubt that boy is similar to that man. I watched as All Might left the room and everyone else followed him. Hello, where have you been? Mina. You really tried hard, didn't you, Izu? She said with a smile while looking at Izuku, who was sleeping on a stretcher. It's really good that you're here again. Her eyes crystallized. I really missed you. Aren't you the only one who's glad I'm here? Said, sighing with resignation. Mina just looked at him, quite surprised. Let's leave the insults for later, I'm not in the mood, said with the gentleman frowning. Mina. Okay, but what do you want? She said seriously and with some hatred in her voice. I just wanted to see how he was, that's all. He got up and started to leave, but stopped dead in his tracks. Saved. Mina was confused, so she was going to ask, but he just walked out without saying a word. Mina. Sighing. I will bring you back, Izu, I promise, she said while she saw the green-haired boy asleep, and then recovery girl called her. I'll be back, Izu. She left, leaving Izuku alone. Izuku's dream. This is something quite cliché, don't you think? Someone said with a big smile. It's repetitive, very repetitive. How many times in other stories something like this happened? Better forgotten. I'm just rambling. Hey, tell me, will you continue like this for a long time? He said, seeing a green-haired man lying on the floor of the place which was completely black. Izuku. Just let me rest for a moment, okay? He sighs, keeping his eyes closed. Hey, don't be lazy, you've slept a lot, although I don't mind you being here anyway, this place is quite boring. Izuku. Yes, I think you're right about that, but it's quite peaceful here. That's true. Hey, it's really surprising that you became so strong in such a short time. I didn't expect All Might to give you his power, but you know you don't need it, you already have that, he said seriously. Izuku. You know what happens when I use that. I don't want to have to use it. You've seen everything I lost, and I still don't remember everything clearly. True, you know you have to go, right? Izuku. Okay, bye. Opens his eyes and everything turns white. The nursing. RG. I see you woke up, kid. You're really talented at hurting yourself. I'll have to set up a place just for you. I'm on my way and I'm looking for some papers. If you want, I can put you as a frequent customer, he said with a mocking smile. Izuku. I take it, but it offends me a lot. He got a little tired and just walked with the intention of leaving. RG. Oh, I almost forgot. Your girlfriend was very worried about you, but I told her to leave early. You should let her know you're awake. She said with a smile as she saw the green-haired boy's confused face. Izuku. Girlfriend. Okay, well, thanks for everything. He left in a bit of a hurry to walk through the halls, somewhat thoughtful about his dream, without realizing that he was already outside the campus and someone was watching him. Katsuki. He just walked towards his house slowly while thinking about her words. I guess there is no other way. He enters his house and remains silent for a few seconds. Okay, here I go, old, I'm here. Katsuki. What did I told you not to call me that, you little idiot. Hitting him on the head. Katsuki. Don't hit me. He said furiously and then calmed down and put on a serious face, which was uncommon for him, something that worried his mother. I have something to tell you. Meanwhile. Mina. I'm here. Mina. Oh, how nice that he's here. I'll go out for a moment with your father. I need you to take care of your brothers while I'm not alone. It'll be a moment. Mina. Well, that's fine, she said while walking to her room in a tired way. Mina. Did you have a bad day, honey? Mina. No, actually it was pretty good, with a small smile. Mina. Okay. Well, goodbye and behave. Go on and don't let Mao get into the washing machine and don't let Nico bring animals into the house again. Mina. Okay mom, don't worry, you know I have everything under control, she said with a confident smile. Mina. That's what worries me, he thought, a little scared. Mina. Okay, bye, sayonara, goodbye. She said, taking her parents out of the house. Okay, now I'm in charge, understood? She said, looking at her brothers, who nodded. Okay, it's time to start things where we left them last time. Nico. I'm going for the mattresses. He said with a smile as he ran. Mao. This time I'm going to win, you'll see, he said running. A few minutes later. Mina. Ready to lose? She said at the top of the stairs on a mattress. Nico. Yes, he said excitedly. Mao. I'm ready, let's go now. Mina. Okay. 1, 2, 3 now. The three of them ran down the stairs at high speed. Mao. I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. He crashes into a cat, causing him to lose control and crash into Nico, who fell on Mina, and they started rolling down the stairs. Outside. Mina. It'll be quick, I'm just going to get my wallet. He was about to open the door. When he did it, he was crushed by a padded ball. Mina. Because I'm not surprised. Meanwhile again Izuku. I'm here. He said tiredly. Right, I live alone. His phone rings. All Might. Call. Hello Midoriya Shonen, it's me calling like a normal person. Izuku. Okay, well, what does All Might need is that he was a bit busy. Oh, don't worry, well, I just wanted to congratulate you and tell you to meet at the beach to talk. Izuku. Okay All Might, I'm on my way. End of call. Izuku. What does All Might want to talk about? Maybe he'll finally teach me how to use one for all properly, he said somewhat excitedly. Nah, who he fooled is All Might. On the beach. Izuku. Let's see where he went now. Something unexpected. Hitting him and sending him rolling on the sand. Izuku. Getting up a little sore. Okay, first of all, why? Sorry Shonen, but you'll have to improve your reflexes since you never know when someone might attack. Izuku. There are just times when I wonder how I got into UA as a teacher. Okay, so what did I want to talk about before I got hit? Well, Shonen, I wanted to tell you that you have to rush your training. It's really problematic if you get hurt, and the faster you master one for all, the faster you can be a hero, he said with a smile. Izuku. I understand, well then I'll do my best, All Might. That's the attitude I was looking for. Well, it's time to prepare for real hell. I think asking Gran Torino for advice is working. Izuku. Okay, I'm scared, he thought somewhat nervously as he began to warm up and prepare to train. After a few hours of training, the green-haired boy could be seen lying face down on the sand, somewhat hurt and tired. I am worried, Shonen, are you okay? Izuku. Still with his face in the sand, he just raises his thumb. I think I broke my thumb. A few minutes later. Well Shonen, there is something I want to talk to you about, he said, looking at the horizon with some seriousness. Izuku. Oh, what's up, Almight? He said, somewhat worried about his expression. You already know about the One for All being inherited and about my injury. The green-haired man just kept quiet. Shonen, when you asked me if you could be a hero without a quirk, you really surprised me, and I couldn't help but see some of myself in you, Shonen. Sigh nostalgically. I didn't have a quirk either, but I always wanted to be a hero that would help everyone, no matter what. That surprised Izuku. That's why I said that you could be a hero. A hero isn't based on his quirk, Shonen, but on his ideals and goals in addition to his strong spirit of justice. Izuku was quite surprised. It was hard to believe that the great All Might was quirkless. What's wrong with you looking at me like that, Shonen? He said, somewhat confused. Izuku. No, not for nothing, All Might, it's just that when you see that I ask you that question, well, he said something nervous, which All Might understood. Shonen, don't tell me you thought I would say no, and that you would abandon his dream of being a hero, just because he doesn't have a quirk. Izuku just scratched the back of his neck, embarrassed. That would be hypocritical of me, Shonen. Besides, there are many heroes who don't have strong or useful quirks, and yet they are great heroes because of their abilities. Izuku. I'm sorry, he said, looking at the horizon again, but you more than anyone know how Quirkles suffer in society. I know all the good you do for Quirkles, now I understand why you do it. Hehe, Shonen, there is another one that I must tell you about, One for All, its origin, he said seriously, to which Izuku just remained silent. Oh, for the birth. Izuku. What does All Might mean by that? He said, confused. All Might sighs and then looks at the orange sky seriously. Like everything in this world, One for All had a beginning. It happened a long time ago, in a time when quirks were barely accepted in society. At that time the first super powerful villains were born, and the streets were covered in the blood of the innocent. From that moment on, the first heroes were born. They overcame each other, fighting in a constant duel to see which side would remain standing. At that time, the leader of that group of villains, who was simply a monster, ended the lives not only of heroes, but also of normal humans who opposed those who possessed quirks. At that time, Shonen hated those who had quirks just for having them. They called them errors and phenomena monsters. That's why a war began to exterminate the possessors of these abilities. The leader of the villains at first only wanted peace, so that both worlds were one, and those who had a quirk could live in peace. He maintained that dream with his brother, who was a quirkle, but for some reason, he saw how humanity continued to hurt his own, and tried to stop them by ending the lives of all those in front of him. Little by little he lost rivals, and those who had a quirk waited to live more or less well. But his brother, horrified by what he had done, tried to help him stop killing and find a peaceful solution, but it was too late. He was no longer able to stop. He became consumed by hatred, and darkness slowly took over him. A battle, or rather a war, began. Heroes, villains and normal people unleashed a war, killing each other, well, especially the villains, since they wanted to destroy society to form a new one. The leader of the villains defeated his brother due to his monstrous power, and he rose as the symbol of evil. The older brother saw how his younger brother begged him to stop the older one in an act of mercy. Maybe, I don't know, he decided to give his younger brother a quirk so he could see what the world was like in his eyes, how the world despised you just for being different. He gave him a quirk, but something happened that his normal brother never expected. He turned out to have a quirk of his own that, when combined with the power his brother gave him, created something new, something never seen before. Izuku. The One for All, he said, quite surprised by everything said by his teacher. That's right, Shonen, his name is the counterpart of his older brother's own quirk, a quirk capable of not only stealing quirks, but also giving them away all for one. Izuku. All for one, whisper, surprised that such a quirk existed. Well, as I was saying. The birth of One for All means only one thing: the beginning of an endless battle between light and darkness, good and evil, bearer to bearer, heart to heart, united with a single goal: to defeat All for One and protect the future from the darkness it brought. But it was useless. The same thing always happened over and over again, a circle of pain that grew stronger from the determination and courage of its bearers, fighting against that abysmal darkness, losing the lives of each one of them, but thanks to that the next bearer would have the will and strength of the previous one to fulfill his final goal, a power that becomes stronger by having more hearts united with a faithful purpose: defeat All for One and protect everyone who needs to be saved. Izuku was actually quite surprised. He couldn't believe it. It was simply amazing. But Izuku. All Might, how many before me tried to defeat him, he said, looking at his hand somewhat uneasy. I'll be honest with you, young man, you are the 9th bearer of One for All. Izuku. Does that mean that before me 9 people fought and lost their lives against that monster? He said with his eyes lowered. He remembered a black-haired woman with a mole and a big smile. Yes, that's right, young man, I'm still alive, but just look at me, he said with the same low and gloomy look of the green-haired man. Izuku. I see, I should have known it wouldn't be that easy, he said, still with his gaze lowered and a smile. I'll understand if you don't want to stay young. I should have told you that the first time we met so you'd know what I was getting into. He was interrupted by a laugh from the green-haired boy, which surprised him. Izuku. It's okay, I'm not going to give up, even though I'll probably have to fight an immortal mutant supervillain to the death to fulfill my dream of being a hero. You believed in me when no one else did. That's why I will not only strive to win for myself. I looked at the green-haired man's eyes shining intensely, but also for all those who perished in order to make this power what it is today, the green-haired man said with a big smile as he stood in front of the sea, for all those who, no matter what, did not give up in order to fulfill their dreams and goals, he said as he turned around and saw All Might with a determined smile, and for all those who are no longer in this world because of its evil, he said, remembering his mother as he clenched his fists. Shonen, this one was speechless, none came out. He was the best successor I could have found, one who no matter what would save everyone, even if he had to give his life a true hero. Izuku. And other cliché things that would probably be very trite and repetitive, he said only to start laughing along with All Might. Hahaha, I see. Shonen still trying not to make the mistakes of the previous carriers and survive the life of a hero is risk after risk. There will be a moment in which you will feel invincible, but even so you are a human who can die. As you can see, it looks like someone has raided a cemetery to steal a corpse, laughed depressedly while standing up. That's why you have to be careful. I can't ask you not to get hurt because it's impossible. I will only ask you one thing, Shonen. Izuku. What's up, All Might, he said, somewhat intrigued. Survive, Shonen, and above all, he said, putting his hands on his mouth while entering his muscular form and smiling. Remember that the strongest are those who smile in any situation, bringing hope to all who see you. That is the meaning of the Shonen P symbol, he said while several memories passed through his head quickly. Izuku. Yes. I shout with great enthusiasm into the air. I see it's already getting dark. Well, see you, Shonen, he said and then started walking. Oh, one more thing. Izuku. It must be something inspiring, he thought with a smile. Something unexpected. Izuku. What? After that, a green projectile could be seen falling into the sea while a blond man questioned his teacher's teachings. Elsewhere. Itsuki. And that's all, he said with his eyes lowered. He had several bumps given by his mother. Itsuki. It's simply amazing that he's alive, she said, drying a few tears of happiness and sadness, and then sighed. And what are you going to do? From what you said, he really hates you, and who wouldn't do it in his place, she said seriously, but with annoyance towards her son. He just got up and walked to the stairs. Itsuki. I don't know, later I'll see how to make him tell me what happened to him, he said seriously as he started to go up to his room. I'm going to find out what happened to you, Deku, it's a promise, he thought with annoyance. Image. We can see a green-haired boy walking thoughtfully towards UA, the #1 hero school in Japan. A few days had passed since All Might's test, and in that time, normal, not very interesting things happened at the academy besides the president's, but he didn't care much. He hurried to get to the East Hall. When he was in front of him, he entered calmly to be greeted by his friends Uraraka and Ida. Uraraka. Deku, what do you think Isawa-sensei is making us do today? She said quite happily. Izuku. I have no idea, but I think he said we would do something very important in hero work, he said thoughtfully but felt someone looking at him. Ida. It's true, it's surely a test where they measure our heroic abilities, he said, moving his hands in a strange way. Izuku. Don't you get tired of doing that? Yes, he feels that they are still watching him and notices Mina looking at him. He connects glances with her, and time seems to stop, this feeling again. Memory. Come on, don't stay behind Izu. Said a very happy silhouette while running. Izuku. Esprim. Hiroshima. Izubro doesn't answer him. Hey, still doesn't answer him. He pinches him in the face. Izuku. Hey, why are you doing that? He said, confused by that strange memory. Hiroshima. Well, I came to talk to you and congratulate you on how well you did on the test. Of course, I couldn't because you were staring into space for 3 minutes, bro. He said, somewhat confused. Izuku. It's been so long. He said, somewhat surprised. Ida. Well, Midoriya, I'm sure you're fine. The injuries you had after the test weren't minor, he said, somewhat worried. Izuku. Yes, I'm fine, nothing's wrong with me, guys, he said with a smile, but Uraraka touched him on the side, making him moan in pain. Uraraka. Deku-kun, I don't believe you at all, you're really hurt, she said, pouting and squinting her eyes. Hiroshima. Hey Izubro, I thought Recovery Girl had cured you? He said, noticing some bruises. Izuku. Haha, well, it's just that I was training and I hurt myself a little, but I'm fine guys, there's nothing to worry about, he said a little nervously, but then someone touched his back, making him let out another louder moan of pain. Oh. Asui. Well, you didn't sound like it's anything Midoriya-jeru, she said, agreeing with Uraraka. Suddenly Asawa comes in tiredly and sits down while everyone sits down abruptly. Asawa. At least you know to be quiet when I arrive, he said to himself. Anyway, today you will have a special training with me and a specialist hero in the field in which we are going to train, so go change into your hero costume to go to the Gamma Gym, he said in a tired way to change at the exit of the classroom. Denki. Professor, a question, he said, raising his hand. Asawa just ignored him to leave the place in a tired way. Everyone left, leaving a depressed Denki. After a while we can see 1A on a bus heading to the Gamma Gym. Everyone was talking about their quirks while a pink-haired girl looked at Izuku thoughtfully. Mina. Even though we've been on the same team, I haven't been able to exchange more than 4 words with him these days, it's annoying, she said in a whisper. Duru. What's annoying? He asked, scaring Mina. Mina. Ah, well, I'm saying that these seats are annoying, don't you think? She said nervously, hoping he would believe her. Duru. Looking at her in silence for a few seconds, if you're right, they are annoying, he said. Mina. Yes, he laughs nervously and looks away at Izuku in a hidden way. Duru. If what you say, he said, noticing who he was looking at. Izuku. Looking out the window in a serious manner, Almight is really taking training seriously, too seriously, it hurts like hell, whispered while ignoring everything around him. Asui. Midoriya, I couldn't help but notice the resemblance of your power to All Might's. What is your quirk? When he said that, everyone paid attention, some more discreetly than others. Mina. Izuku's quirk, she was still confused about that since it was supposed to be Quirkless and she couldn't find an explanation. Tatsuki. Look sideways at Izuku with a serious look. Everything goes silent, which is interrupted by a snore coming from the green-haired boy who was basically passed out from the tiredness of training, along with the hours of studying. Everyone was somewhat bewildered by that while the green-haired boy was in the land of dreams resting. Uraraka. Oh well, I guess Deku-kun was very tired, better let him sleep for a while, she said, somewhat amused by the situation. Kirishima. How bad I wanted to know, well, what will happen to him, he surely had a very manly training and that's why he was exhausted, he said, smiling while settling into his seat. After a while they ended up arriving at Gamma Gym where everyone started getting off the bus. Asawa. Very well, first, he notices that the green-haired man is missing, where is Midoriya? He asked seriously upon noticing the green-haired man's absence. Katsuki. The stupid nerd fell asleep. Asawa. Fell asleep, he felt slightly proud of that but ignored it, someone wake him up so we can start training. Uraraka and Iida were about to go, but Mina got there first and said she would do it. She arrived where the green-haired boy was sleeping peacefully and stared at his face. She had to admit that he had changed, he didn't look like he did when he was a child, so innocent and happy, now he was more serious and hardly spoke to others, which saddened her a little. Mina. Midoriya. Hey, Midoriya wakes up, she moved him slightly, but he didn't wake up, maybe yes. Hey, Izu wakes up, suddenly he started to move a little until he opened his eyes, meeting Mina's eyes. Izuku. He. Both stared at each other's eyes for a few moments, neither said a word. Izuku was feeling that strange sensation again, he could only describe it as warm and comfortable while Mina was hypnotized, she had forgotten how much she liked the green-haired boy's eyes, she was blushing and only slowly approached the green-haired boy who was in his own world, she was about to achieve it. Todoroki. What are you doing? He asked, scaring Mina, who jumped back. Izuku just kept thinking, completely ignoring the fact that Mina was about to kiss him until he saw Todoroki. Izuku. Hello Todoroki, are we there yet? He asked, to which the bicolor just nodded, well then let's go, both left leaving a blushing, nervous and frustrated girl. Asawa. Well, I'm glad you had the good fortune to join us, Midoriya, he said in a serious manner, to which the green-haired man just yawned, he just felt a little proud of that. Kirishima. Hey Mina, are you okay? I asked, noticing the pink-haired girl's expression. Mina. Yes, nothing's wrong, don't worry, she saw Todoroki and frowned, then sighed to calm down, I was about to, but what's wrong with me? I'm fine. Kirishima. It's okay if you say so, he said, not very sure. Asawa. Well, let's go and I want to sleep now, he said tiredly, followed by everyone. Everyone was surprised by how big the place was, it was simply immense with different areas for rescue with specific disasters. Denki. Whoa, it's super cool. Iida. Worthy of the UA is simply fascinating. And 13. It really is, he said, appearing next to Asawa. Asawa. Yes, as long as it's good, the heroine who will help us today is interrupted by Uraraka. Uraraka. She's the space heroine from Rescue 13, this is simply great. she said, very happy and excited. Asawa. Whatever, hey, where is he? He said, looking at N13, who just made a sign that he understood and then sighed. How annoying, anyway, it will be better to start without him. Let's do this quickly, he said, walking followed by the others. N13. Before we begin, let me tell you something important, young people. They all looked at her attentively, and I need you to listen to me carefully. Everyone just saw 13 stop for a moment to look at them all, and then clear his throat. N13. Have you ever thought about murdering someone? Would you kill by mistake? N13 had said something that puzzled everyone, some just kept quiet, while others just continued to process the question. Izuku? Yes, he said in a serious manner, causing everyone to look at him somewhat surprised. N13. I see you have all done it at some point, unconsciously or consciously, he said, sighing. Do you know what my quirk is? It's black hole. It's perfect for removing debris and other things in my work as a rescuer. Now imagine what would happen if I used it against a person. Everyone tensed due to the images that reached them about that. I could easily kill someone if I don't measure my power, just like you. Tell me, have you heard about the incident at Rentoki High School? Ida. Wait, isn't that where the massacre occurred, where 30 people died and they had to close the high school? He said, surprising everyone. Uraraka. Did that really happen? She said nervously and a little scared. Ida, he just nods to continue. Yes, my brother was in charge of that case about 5 or 6 years ago. They never specified who was the cause of said massacre, so I think it was a villain. N13. Oh, that's where you're wrong, kid, she said in a serious way, attracting everyone's attention. Asawa just looked at her seriously. It wasn't a villain, it was a student. That surprised everyone. Asui. Excuse me, 13 sensei, but how was he a student? Jiro, she was intrigued by what N13 said. N13. You know that academy also prepared heroes for the future. Of course it wasn't that good at its job. It was discovered that in that place some students were mistreated and some shady things happened. Which is why it was never trusted and almost no one wanted to attend that place. She remained silent for a moment and then continued. What is known so far is that a student who did not know how to control his quirk was aggressively pressured by a teacher, causing him to lose control of his quirk, killing 27 students and 3 teachers in the process. That surprised and alarmed some. Mineta 13 sensei, and what happened to that boy? They arrested him, right? He said nervously. N13. No, it wasn't necessary. He thought alone for a moment. When they arrived they found the boy, and when he saw what he did he committed suicide. There was only silence, apparently wanting to be a hero, and ending up losing control, killing his companions in the process, was too much for him, and he just couldn't stand it. Ida. But 13 sensei, they never said that. My brother never wanted to clarify it to me, and in the media, they said he was a villain. N13. They didn't want them to know what really happened. Apparently that school had their strings attached and they tried to cover up what happened, but in the end, some hero discovered them and locked them up, closing the place down too. What I'm getting at is, if that boy could lose control of his quirk and commit such a disaster, who says you can't either? Everyone was surprised by that. From what I read about their powers, there are quirks that vary in class, from throwing simple sticky spheres, Mineta just got depressed about that, to throwing explosions, capable of splitting someone in half. Everyone saw Bakugo, who just clicked his tongue and looked away. The point is they can easily kill someone, that's why I'm telling you this. Young people, be very careful when using this power that you were born with, because you'll have to be prepared for the consequences when something bad happens. Everyone just stayed silent. A green-haired boy who had his gaze lowered just clenched his fists. Izuku. There are heroes who have done that, aren't there, sensei? He said, crestfallen, calling everyone's attention. N13. Unfortunately, that's how it is. Everyone looked at 13, surprised. The world is not as pretty as children paint it. We are all human, and there were times when some pay with their lives for said mistakes, he said, clenching his fists. Asawa. You wanted to be heroes, right? You'll have to abandon that childish mentality if you want to become one, he said seriously, turning his back on them. Momo. Excuse me, 13 sensei, but how do you know about that? N13 saw Momo in a serious way. From what Iida said, it was not revealed what happened in that place until some time later, and at no time did they say it was a student. Everyone saw N13 waiting for an answer. Izuku. She was there, wasn't she? He said with a serious look. Everyone was listening attentively to his answer. N13. That's right, everyone looked at her in surprise. I was one of the first to arrive at the place. He just turned around to start walking next to Asawa, leaving the boys in silence. Please think about what I said. You really would have been a great hero, Kaido. Mind of N13. I can't do it. I'm a monster. I don't deserve to live. He screamed while crying. N13. I'm not going to abandon you, please wait. Out of your mind. N13. Being a hero is harder than you think, he said with a gloomy look. Asawa. Well, with that said, let's start with the training, he said, returning to his tired tone. Everyone remained silent. The first to advance was the green-haired man who looked calm. Everyone began to walk slowly to begin training. Hiroshima. Wow, this place is great, they even have a simulation with villains, he said in amazement when he saw a bunch of villains appearing right in the middle of the place. Asawa. They're not fake. They're real villains. N13 take everyone out of here now. He got ready and ran against the villains ready to fight. They were all armed and couldn't believe the place was filled with villains with a thirst for blood, ready to finish them all off. Mineta. It can't be. We will die. I'm still too young new. This one began to hyperventilate and then receive a slap from Denki. Thanks, I needed it. This one receives another one. Hey, and why is that? Denki? Just in case. Suddenly the whole place shook for a moment, that scared everyone. Everyone saw a black mist appear in the center of the place, along with a light blue-haired man with multiple mutilated hands on his body and a large humanoid being with its brain exposed, quite terrifying. Izuku. No, it can't be, he was paralyzed just by seeing that big monster, his body told him to run away, he was so lost in his own thoughts that he didn't notice how the fog was in front of them. Kurogiri. Hello young people, I regret to inform you that you will have to die, you will wonder who we are, his tone changed to a more somber one as his size increased, we are the League of Villains, and we are here to kill Almight. Everyone froze because of that kill Almight. It was simply hard to believe. Izuku was shocked to hear that wasn't it true, or was it quickly the image of the monster with the exposed brain came to his mind and his heart stopped for a second when he saw how N13 who was fighting the villain ended up seriously injured by her own quirk, he couldn't believe what he saw. In a second the villain transported some because Bakugo and Kirishima had baffled the villain for a second and then disappeared. Everything turned black for the green-haired boy and he began to feel a chill and then appeared in the air falling into the water. Izuku. Trying to swim to the surface, but a villain grabs his foot, sinking the green-haired boy little by little. Izuku tried to get free by activating One for All at 10%, but he was very hurt and tired, even so he managed to hit the villain to get free. When he succeeded, another villain began to pull him to the bottom with the intention of drowning the boy. Izuku slowly lost consciousness as several villains pulled him to the bottom. Izuku. Am I going to die here? After everything I've been through, this really is annoying. He closed his eyes as he deactivates One for All, while the brightness of his eyes slowly fades away. Chaos and chaos. It was the end, wasn't it? That's what our favorite green-haired boy thought as he slowly lost the precious oxygen in his lungs due to having a large number of villains pulling him to the bottom of the water. Izuku. No, I can't do it now, I haven't kept my promise. All the villains began to feel great pressure and then saw how he moved his arm underwater at great speed, creating a whirlpool which trapped the villains, and he took the opportunity to swim using One for All to get out of the water at great speed and collide with a ship, rolling on the deck until he stopped and caught his breath. Kirishima. Hey bro, are you okay? He said worriedly since he thought he was the only one on the boat. Izuku. Kirishima. With the help of Kirishima he leaned against a wall. What happened? Weren't you with Kitsuki? Kirishima. Yes, but the guy with the purple smoke managed to catch me and send me here, he said, quite worried, looking at the large number of villains who were recovering in the water. They both hear a scream to look into the water and notice a purple-haired girl surrounded by villains. Kirishima. It can't be Jiro. We have to help her. He said, alarmed seeing the villains approaching. Izuku. Damn, what do I do? I have it. Kirishima looks for a rope quickly, he runs to look for one while looking at his right hand, it is not time to doubt. He jumps into the water and throws a burst of air that pushes the villains away. He quickly swims until he reaches where Jiro was, who was very scared. Kirishima now. Kirishima. There we go. He throws the rope so they both can hold it, and with a jerk, he brings them to the boat with great force, causing them to crash into Kirishima. Sorry guys. Izuku. It doesn't matter, are you okay? He said looking at the purple-haired girl who was getting up in pain. Ioka. Yes, thanks for helping me, but what's going on? She said, scared when she saw the villains coming back. Kirishima. Demons, why don't they give up? Izuku. We need to get out of here and meet up with the others. Jiro. It's easier said than done, how will we get out of here in the first place? She looked quite worried at her companions. Kirishima. The villains aren't attacking us, why? He said, confused. Jiro. Do you want us to be attacked? She said, annoyed. Kirishima. I didn't mean that. He said, trying to calm her down. Both continued fighting, while the green-haired man clenched his fists in anger to stomp on them, making them shut up. Izuku. Calm down both of you. We have too many problems to be arguing over a stupid thing, do you understand? They both stepped back a little when they saw how he looked at them angrily. Kirishima. I'm sorry Azubro. Jiro didn't say anything and just crossed his arms to calm down and apologize. Izuku. Listen, to get out of here you have to be calm and think of a plan. That's why I need your help to be able to return to the others, understood? He said seriously, both nodded and began to think. Hiroshima. First, the villains are not attacking us, that means they are not sure about attacking, maybe because they must not know our quirk and are waiting for the exact moment to defeat us, he said with a hand on his chin. Jiro. Wow, I think you're right, but he said in the same way. Izuku. You're also wrong, both look at him with confusion. First, I want you to tell me what your quirks are. Hiroshima. Well, my quirk allows me to harden my body quite a bit, giving me a lot of resistance and strength, he said while activating his quirk. Jiro. It's mine, it allows me to generate sound waves, of course, which I can only do with this, he said while pointing at his boots. They have speakers that allow me to use my quirk better, without them I can only know the position of enemies, but I don't think it will work here, he said referring to the water. Izuku. Mine is basically an internal battery that the more I train the more power I get until I release them in physical strength, he said hoping they would believe him and noticed that both were surprised by his quirk. Hiroshima. How cool. It's a very masculine power. He said, amazed by his quirk. Izuku. Thank you, but our quirks are not for this situation. It means that someone knows what our quirks were and sent us to these places with the purpose of being at a disadvantage, he said looking at the other disaster zones. Hiroshima. It's true, if I fall into the water I wouldn't be able to defend myself much and I'm useless in this situation, he said clenching his fists with his eyes lowered. Jiro. And I don't think I'll be able to do anything either. My boots were damaged so I can't generate sound waves. It's just under the gaze. Izuku. Damn, we are not in a good position, our quirk is not very good to get out of here, besides we are surrounded by villains specialized in aquatic combat and I already broke my fingers, he said looking at his hand which was shaking, but even so, he said in a whisper that Jiro heard, it will be very fun, he said looking up with a determined smile, I have a plan guys, I need your help, both were surprised and nodded. Meanwhile. Uraraka. Please 13 sensei, hold on. She said terrified, helping the heroine with Mina. Mina. We have to wait for the professionals to arrive. Iida already went for them, just hold on. She had tears in her eyes due to fear. Shoji. Asawa-sensei is fighting quite well against those villains, he said he was quite surprised seeing the number of villains defeated by the underground hero. Saito. The others are already arriving, he said while helping Ajiro with an unconscious Asui on his back, somewhat charred, and Tokoyami who was holding his arm in pain. Shoji. Damn, leave her here with the others, he said, helping carry Asui and checking her to leave her on the ground next to Kota, who was also unconscious with some blood running down his forehead. Let me help you, he said, helping Tokoyami sit down, who had a dislocated arm. Tokoyami. I couldn't do anything to help them, he said clenching his fist in frustration, there was too much light to be able to use my power well, and they surrounded us with their fire quirk, and we barely managed to escape from there, he said while covering his face with his hand. Ajiro just put his hands on his shoulder to support him. He had several wounds and burns all over his body, as well as a cut on his cheek. Shoji. This is wrong, where can the others be, and they still haven't moved from there, those villains, he thought seriously looking at the two villains in the center of the place who only saw all the chaos. Asawa defeated each villain until not one remained to hear applause coming from the villain with the mutilated hands. Shigaraki. Bravo, they really didn't say in vain that you were strong, you were able to beat a bunch of fourth-rate villains on your own, he said to stop applauding and sighing. Shota Asawa, hero name Eraserhead, or something like that, quirk erased, which, as his name says, erases the quirks of others, underground hero and homeroom teacher of class 1A, tell me, dear Professor Asawa, he said, looking at him blankly, where is the peace symbol? He ran towards Asawa at high speed, trying to touch him in the face, but Asawa dodged him and kicked him, which Shigaraki covered himself from to quickly retreat. Asawa. How do you know that? She said while activating her quirk to try to catch them with her bandages, but they are caught by a purple portal. Gurujiri. Shigaraki, one of the students escaped and must be going to UA right now to ask the professional heroes for help, said the living portal appearing next to him, ignoring the hero. Asawa. Damn, another one, but at least help will arrive soon, I have to buy time. Shigaraki. He said nothing, he just smiled under the hand on his face and then laughed. Perfect, everything is going according to plan. This alarmed Asawa, you let the engine guy escape, right? He asked with a smile while Kurogiri just nodded. Perfect, we just have to wait until the symbol of peace arrives to use this one here, he said while looking at the monster. Tell me one thing, hero, you should already know why we are here, right? He said while smiling, seeing Asawa's shocked face. This one you see here is the anti-symbol of peace Nomu. Tell me, he just looked at the Nomu and then looked at Asawa, do you want to try it first? He said with a twisted and grim look. Chaos in USJ Part 2. Nobody saw it coming, how could they have been? Everyone was so anxious about training in the morning, and now it was a nightmare. The universe has a rather twisted way of bringing two related stories together, and that's what happened that day where they would understand that this world isn't as pretty as it's painted. Screams were all that could be heard throughout the place. The students did not move, they were horrified by what they saw. There was a terrifying villain straight out of the nightmares of the symbol of peace himself, covered in blood with a hideous smile. Shigaraki. I thought you would put up more of a fight, but it wasn't like that, stop it Nomu. The Nomu moved away from the badly injured human body that was on the ground, both arms were broken like his legs, and if you got closer, you could notice how the bone was sticking out, all adorned with the fact that there was blood coming out of his wounds. Shigaraki. I was hoping you know, he said as he approached with his gaze lowered, that he was here and would stop me and end this horrible parade of pain, but he's not, he was already in front of the defenseless Asawa, do you understand what I'm saying? He said to bend down, he's never going to be here when you really need him, but still you wait for him like he's some kind of god. Sigh to look at the hero's state, you make it seem like that you can't save them all, he said in a low voice, and yet you try, but you'll never be real, you're just idiots in tights who try to seem fair, but in the end do nothing to change this horrible society, but leaving that aside, he said as he looked at the hero's state, you look bad Shota, he said with an indifferent look, it seems like a truck ran over you, and yet you're conscious. I congratulate you, not many would still be alive at this point, let me help you. Everyone was terrified when they saw how in a movement Shigaraki touched the hero's hand, while he only remained serious because of the hero's screams of pain. Shall I give you a hand? He said seriously while he watched how little by little the hero's arm was slowly torn apart. All this was seen by the young students to hero which were in shock, could not believe what was in front of them, not one was able to say a word. In another place there was a black-haired man running next to a blonde man with a black lightning bolt in his hair, carrying an unconscious purple-haired man with a wound in his chest and blood coming out of his head. They arrived with their companions and were relieved, but that relief went away as soon as they saw the horrendous scene. Momo. She covered her mouth in terror as she saw what was happening. Shoji quickly helps the others who arrived by laying Mineta down next to the bodies of Shiro, Kota, Asui who were unconscious and in similar states. Haminari was staring blankly at what he saw. He had a wound on his shoulder and back which was stained with blood. He just saw everything with a dull and terrified look until an image came to his mind, increasing his fear. Haminari. Where is Jiro? Everyone was surprised by that question, and Momo looked around and didn't notice the purple-haired girl anywhere. Momo. Neither is Todoroki or Bakugo, she said scared. Shoji. And we haven't seen Aoyama, Kirishima or Midoriya anywhere, he said worriedly while he saw a pink-haired girl crying on the shoulder of an invisible girl who only had one glove. A huge explosion followed by a large glacier left everyone surprised. On the battlefield. Shigaraki. Obstacles, he said and jumped back crossing a purple portal appearing next to the Nomu, where he was a second ago there was only a large amount of ice, and Asawa's body was no longer there. I suppose there weren't enough villains, right? He said with an eyebrow raised looking at a bicolor next to a blonde who had the badly wounded hero on his back. Hitsuki. Half-half, he said hitting the teacher leaving the bicolor confused, take what's here and go with the others, he said with his gaze lowered standing in front of the bicolor who was going to protest, I'll give them time so they can escape. He got into a combat position, you better not ruin it did you listen idiot? He said shooting a huge explosion at the light blue-haired man who only had his hands in his pockets hitting him squarely. Everyone was surprised when they saw that and believed that he had defeated the villain, but their happiness went away when they saw how a monstrous figure had received the explosion. Shigaraki came out from behind the Nomu with his hands in his pockets to take out a piece of gum and eat it calmly while he looked at the new enemies in front of him. Shigaraki. Katsuki Bakugo Quirk explosion sweats nitroglycerin from his hands to generate explosions. This one made a bubblegum bomb, you could kill me with it you know. It's not something very heroic, he said simply while looking at him seriously. Hitsuki. Of hero, he had his gaze lowered, I don't care about that, he raised his gaze full of anger, I will make you pay for all of this damn you. You, he shouted to take a step forward while trembling with anger, are going to pay. Everyone saw how he launched an attack, while Shigaraki just smiled with his hands in his pockets, dodging his attack with ease. Todoroki took the opportunity to flee with the teacher on his back, generating a giant wall of ice that stopped the mutated monster's blow. Bakugo. Stop moving Shine. He shouted trying to attack him, but he just dodged everything for a while. The Nomu was about to attack Todoroki, but a voice stopped him. Shigaraki. Leave him Nomu, it's not worth it, he said still dodging Bakugo's attacks with his hands in his pockets. This one here I think wants to play with you a little don't you think boy? He said running alarmingly to Bakugo giving him a knee in the pit of the stomach, leaving him without air making him fall to his knees, causing him to only try to catch his breath. The Nomu was in front of Bakugo in an instant, who could only swallow saliva upon seeing the imposing titan in front of him. Bakugo. Ha, Shigaraki walked with his back to Bakugo, while Bakugo just looked at his hands which were shaking. Dying at this point for this monster would be very pathetic, wouldn't it? He said with his gaze lowered while the Nomu was only raising his arms with the intention of crushing him. I hope not to be so weak to fall at this point. He smiled to quickly remove both safety pins from his gloves, pointing at the Nomu, closing his eyes to get up suddenly and jump. I think something of your old you stuck to me, he silly nerd. In an instant everyone saw a monstrous explosion that destroyed the center of the battlefield, making the place shake. They asked to see how due to the jump that Bakugo took, he was shot like a rocket backwards, destroying the trees where he fell. Leaving a red trail and blood stains where he was thrown. Everyone was paralyzed. Todoroki, who had left Asawa to return with Bakugo, was left with his eyes wide open, seeing that everyone saw the large amount of smoke leaving trails of destruction, until he saw something that paralyzed him. There was the monster without the upper part of his body, so that after a few seconds behind him, a purple portal appeared through which the light blue-haired man passed chewing gum in a serious manner. Shigaraki. I almost didn't see it coming, thanks Kurogiri, he said looking at the state of the Nomu. Kurogiri. You're welcome, Shigaraki. He also saw the Nomu. That explosion was quite strong, right? Shigaraki. I won't take any credit away from the brat, it was still useless on his part. The Nomu began to regenerate, terrifying the students. But Shigaraki felt a tickle and looked up calmly to spit out his gum suddenly and jumped forward, alarmed to see a ship falling, where the Nomu was generating an explosion where it fell, leaving everyone surprised to see a green flash come out of the water's edge next to a reed and a purple-haired man somewhat hurt. Shigaraki. Getting up, seeing the hand that fell from his face to the ground with a gloomy look, this is already making me angry. High seas. A few moments before. You could see 3 individuals on a ship surrounded by villains planning a way out of said situation until one finds a way. Izuku. I know what to do, but I need your help. Both nodded and looked at him eagerly. Jiro, your quirk allows you to amplify your heartbeats, right? She is somewhat confused and nodded. Then come with me. Both began to walk, leaving Kirishima. Kirishima. Hey Izubro, what should I do? He said confused as he saw them walk away. Izuku. I need you to buy time so the villains don't try to attack, okay? He nodded decisively and then watched them leave. Kirishima. Buy time, how do I do that? Come on, Ijiro, think. How do I keep the villains at bay while Izubro puts the plan into action? He started to think until he saw the ship's anchor for a few seconds. Hell yeah, brother, a smile that would make Bakugo proud appeared on his face. Meanwhile, the green-haired man walked followed by Jiro to a specific place, the engine room. Jiro. What are we looking for? She said confused looking at the interior of the ship. Izuku. You know the USJ was designed to realistically recreate any rescue situation, including the most dangerous and destructive ones, he said as he opened a panel and began to look inside. Jiro. Yes, but how will that help us? He said without understanding what the green-haired man was referring to, who was manipulating some cables and levers. Izuku. Tell me one thing, if the UA, prestigious hero academy, has enough budget to let loose a bunch of crazy robberies in one of its many fake cities, without caring about the great amount of mass destruction that they themselves cause, do you think they would be so stingy as to put a fake ship in this place that is supposed to be made to be quite realistic? Jiro was just surprised and couldn't say a word against that logic. Jiro. That means that, suddenly the lights turned on and Izuku approached the controls and began to touch some buttons. Izuku. Yes, this ship, like everything in it, is real. He saw some devices. We have gasoline to get there with the others, but first I need to raise it. He stays quiet and the ship suddenly starts to move from one side to the other. He looks outside and sighs. Problem solved, he said while continuing to manipulate the controls. Jiro, somewhat scared, looked out the window and looked in surprise at Kirishima, who was spinning the anchor like a rope while smiling as he watched the villains retreat. Izuku. I'm not exaggerating when I said that his quirk gives him great strength, he said, hitting a metal box, opening it and rewiring some cables with a serious look. Even though spending time with Katsuki is already affecting him, he said, noticing the Redeed's amused smile that was shouting things about how masculine he looked. Jiro. If he continues like this, he'll knock us over. She said, somewhat dizzy from the constant movement. Even if I'm pushing them away, they're still not out of combat. What do we do then? She said worriedly, looking at the green-haired man who stood up and gave her a cable. Hey, what's this? Izuku. Well, Kirishima's role is not to knock them out, just to distract them while you defeat them. This surprised Jiro, who was going to speak, but the green-haired man got there first. You know how he said everything on this ship is real, its engine, anchor, electronic system, toilet, which Kirishima I think he used recently, he said with some disgust, and of course, he touched a button turning on the ship speakers. Jiro. It can't be, he was surprised as a smile formed on his face. Izuku. Yes, it can be. Now, he signals to Kirishima to cover his ears. Seeing Jiro with a smile who was holding a cable, it alarmed him, and he quickly covered himself. "Okay, don't limit yourself, go for it to get out of this," he said while covering his ears and crouching down, holding onto something tightly. Jiro? "Okay, but remember you asked for it," he said with a smile as he plugged in his jacks. In the water. Villain. "I think that crazy red-haired kid is tired, it's time to attack," he said with a sinister smile. The ILLAIN2. "Are you sure I don't like something?" he said, somewhat worried about the calm. The ILLAIN3. "Come on, they're just brats, that's the worst thing they can do," he said confidently while mocking. Suddenly a sound like light pulsations was heard, leaving the villains confused, so that from one second to another, a huge sonic boom caused all the villains to scream in pain, while their eardrums exploded until it stopped because the speakers exploded. Hiroshima. Oh, it hurts a lot," he said while rolling around the deck trying to get rid of the ringing in his ears. "I think he should have held back a little," he said somewhat nervously when he saw the bodies of the unconscious villains floating in the water, as if they were corpses. He quickly ran to his friends, suddenly opening the door and seeing Izuku in the same state as Jiro, with his clothes somewhat burned and sitting on the floor with a surprised face. Hiroshima. "Well, I guess the plan went well, didn't it, Izubro?" He laughed as he helped his friend stand up. Izuku. "Yes, I think it's too good," he said, noticing how the speakers exploded and the state of the villains. "I think I shouldn't mess with cables anymore," he said, seeing that some were burned. Jiro. "Ha, that was amazing," she said while getting up, somewhat sore due to the momentum that made her fall. "But do you think this thing will work after that?" she said, looking at the burnt cables. Izuku quickly moved some levers and started the boat, putting it in motion, bringing a smile to the Retied's face, quickly moving the boat towards the shore. Hiroshima. "I hope the others are okay. Imagine if we were in this situation, how the others will be," he said with concern, looking out the window. Jiro. "Don't worry, the heroes will surely defeat those villains, and the professionals will be arriving to help," he said, smiling to calm the Retied. Izuku. "I'm not so sure about that." They looked with surprise at the green-haired man who only continued guiding the ship. Their objective was not simply to attack us, they came exclusively to kill Almight. That alarmed the two. Jiro. "But come on, do you think they can achieve such a thing?" "It's Almight we're talking about," she said, somewhat nervous because of the green-haired man's tone of voice. Izuku. "Kirishima, your quirk allows you to withstand blows that would kill an average person, right?" He just nodded. "And that we are only in the first year, how do you think you will be when you are a professional hero?" He just looked at him in silence. "You would be basically invincible if you perfected your quirk, but even so someone with a brain could find a way to kill you, since after all you are a human of blood and bone." This left both uneasy. All Might is just a human with a quirk that he perfected, becoming the hero that we all see, and that many make the mistake of seeing him as if he were God, but after all he can also bleed and fall. A silence filled the room, leaving two aspiring heroes thoughtful, who only looked at the green-haired man, who maintained a serious look while guiding the ship. Hiroshima. "You really know how to kill hopes, Izubro," he laughed, somewhat nervous and scared. Izuku just sighed and then turned to them with his gaze lowered. Izuku. "It wasn't my intention, excuse me, I just don't want them to be like the others and depend so much on someone else." He just looked back at the front. "I don't want them to go through the same thing as me," he said in a sad and melancholic tone, while he lowered his gaze, leaving both of them in silence. Jiro felt sick for some reason. He was about to speak when he saw something on the shore that made him terrified. Everyone went blank when they saw Bakugo fighting against a villain with the mutilated hands who only dodges his attacks. Izuku. "What the hell is going on now?" he thought, alarmed, frowning in concern at the scene. "Because we are heroes." A few moments ago on the shore. Silence was what reigned in the three newcomers who watched in shock what their explosive companion did to defeat the monster. Hiroshima Bakubakubro. He started to tremble, paralyzed by fear. Jiro was in no better condition than him. She was horrified by the way the ashen-haired boy flew away. Izuku was silent with his gaze lowered. He only began to walk slowly like a zombie under the gaze of his companions, who only tensed up when they saw his state, and they looked to follow him quickly. Hiroshima and Jiro, getting off the boat, saw Izuku on the shore in front of the boat. He just made a strange sign to Kirishima that Jiro didn't understand, but when he saw Kirishima's face, he saw the seriousness and fury on his face, alarming the purple-haired girl a little. She was left with her eyes wide open as she watched how the two of them lifted the boat with great effort and then threw it, while they had a look full of anger. Jiro could only watch in amazement at what his companions had done and then see where they threw him, leaving her with her mouth open at the huge explosion generated by the crash of the ship. No one, due to the shock and the large cloud of dust and ash, noticed how the ship had been thrown into the air until the explosion occurred. Todoroki. What the hell was that? He got up with difficulty until he saw the remains of the ship in astonishment, searching for the origin, until he noticed a green-haired man, a red-haired man, and a purple-haired man running towards him. Jiro. They couldn't have warned me before doing such a crazy thing, they almost hit this guy here. He said, running alongside his companions, followed by a bicolor who didn't understand what was happening. Hiroshima. We didn't have time, besides, that thing kept moving, and you saw what it did to Bakubro, he said with anger and frustration while helping the green-haired boy walk. Jiro. And you, idiot, shouldn't have done such a thing. Look at the state you were in, she said, worried and annoyed with her partner. Izuku said nothing when a tremor shook the entire area. This made them turn around quickly, noticing how the great titan emerged from the flames and rubble as if nothing had happened, to stomp and give a roar that left the four stunned. It was simply a demon. They only heard applause followed by a scream, causing them to see how the villain with the mutilated hands was coming out of the smoke next to a purple portal. Shigaraki. I really didn't see that coming. I congratulate you, you really impressed me, he said to stop applauding. Launching a bucking ship haha was simply original, he said, standing next to the Nomu. Izuku. Guys, go with the others, I'll give you time, he said, activating one for all. Jiro. Of course we don't have to leave. She said, alarmed by the madness he said. Hiroshima. I'm not going to let you fight alone, Izubro. It wouldn't be manly to leave his friends behind, he said, standing next to him to activate his quirk with a serious look. Todoroki. I'll help, this surprised Jiro, who was going to speak but was interrupted. You should see if you can find Bakugo, maybe he needs help. This left Jiro with her gaze lowered when she saw her companions in front of her with their combat poses. Jiro. Why, she clenched her fists tightly. Why fight if you know you lose, she said while tears threatened to come out. Why fight if you know you'll fail? She screamed, looking at the green-haired man's back who only saw her out of the corner of her eye. Hiroshima. Maybe we'll fall, he said, ready to attack. Todoroki. And we lose, he said as a lot of cold began to be felt throughout the place. Izuku. But still, the ground beneath him began to crack, even if the odds are against him. One for all, he prepared to attack. A hero does not give up even if he bleeds, cries or falls again and again, if it means protecting others. Everyone saw how the three just looked up while Izuku stomped his foot, making the ground shake, because the essence of a hero is to protect and defend the hopes and dreams of everyone. A large amount of ice was thrown at the villains, who only went through a portal, leaving the brain exposed, which with a blow destroyed the ice, leaving a spectacle for everyone's eyes. Jiro. Running to where Bakugo fell with tears in his eyes. I see. Hiroshima quickly hit the ground, taking out a large rock to hit the Nomu with it, which did nothing to the Nomu. He tried to crush him, but a flash of green hit him in the face, making him miss the blow. The Nomu tried to attack again, but a monstrous amount of ice hit him, causing him to step back while he covered himself. Then they saw how Izuku had Kirishima by the feet, spinning at great speed. He threw Kirishima, which as if it were a spear, short behind the knees of the Nomu, which without being able to do anything, fell to his knees, being completely wrapped in ice to the amazement of everyone. Then they saw how Izuku, along with a recovered Kirishima, ran to the Titan while preparing a big punch, destroying the ice and in the process ending the Nomu, which was missing its arms and a leg, flying towards a large amount of rubble. Shigaraki. It's not possible. How can they be beating? Nomu has the power to kill Almight. He was furious and alarmed. No, it is not possible. He shouted angrily to see how the Nomu, even after regenerating and attacking again, was being overwhelmed by the power of the students to heroes. Everything should go according to plan. He began to bring his fingers closer to his neck, but suddenly stopped. He saw the students fight against the Nomu. How careless I am. Well, what does it matter? I guess we'll have to use what the doctor gave us. Kurogiri tensed because of that. Kurogiri brings the prototype, he said, so that a kind of needle fell into the palm of his hand. Kurogiri. Are you sure, Shigaraki Tamura, that prototype knows what it will cause? He said, not very sure. Shigaraki. No, but it will be a sight worth seeing. Kurogiri laughs a little. Meanwhile, the student heroes were losing their energy against the anti-symbol of peace, who continued to attack his attackers in a brutal manner. Hiroshima. Already know I can continue for much time, guys, he said, forcing his quirk. Although he had not been hit by the Nomu, only its pressure when hitting him had affected him. Todoroki. Hold on a little longer. He was freezing the Nomu as much as he could, but the cold was already affecting him. Izuku simply said nothing. He gave blow after blow, but nothing worked. He was very strong. He desperately charged a blow at 100%. Izuku. Back off. He gave the big blow that to his surprise he had resisted. What? He received a kick that sent him flying until he collided with a large piece of metal from the ship, causing a collapse. But the others? Mina. Izuku. She was terrified by what she saw, and without thinking twice she ran to help him. Her friends tried to stop her, but she just ran off to help the green-haired boy. Shigaraki. In the end it wasn't necessary, he said lowering his gaze a little, but curiosity won out. He crossed a portal appearing next to the Nomu. In an instant he buried the needle in it and returned to the portal. A rigid force shook the place, everyone was paralyzed, the Nomu, which was already terrifying, Muto unleashed a great air pressure that sent Kirishima and Todoroki flying. Shigaraki. Whoa, not bad doc, he said on top of a destroyed building seeing everything. Let's see what they do now against the Neo Nomu version 1.0, he said while eating gum calmly. Millimeters, I see you've arrived. A smile formed on his face when he saw the door of the place fly away. Almight. Everything is fine. Why? He took a big leap falling in front of the Nomu, making the whole place shake. Why am I here? Shigaraki. The main show has begun. He said very excitedly, signaling to Kurogiri who disappears, a high-speed duel. Simply amazing, he said like a little kid watching both titans looking at each other with hatred, a true battle between titans. I can't wait. A small smile appeared on his face as he saw the top heroes arrive, and everything according to plan. He took a metallic sphere out of his pocket and threw it into the air where it remained suspended. Isn't that right, Hyde? He said with a sad and melancholic smile. Because we are villains. The heavens knew what was coming, as a massive storm was brewing, blending seamlessly with the atmosphere of despair and chaos brewing at the UA. Nizo. Everyone, come out now. Don't waste time. Get the wounded out now, now. He shouted as he helped Mineta. The teachers quickly removed the injured youngsters along with their teachers, all in order not to put anyone else at risk. The reason? Simple, he was furious. Bam. You guys. He had his gaze lowered, the ground beneath him was completely destroyed due to the jump he made. You will pay for it, he shouted, releasing great pressure. The clash of fists began between the symbol of peace and the new Nomu, which continued to clash, both with a colossal power that made the whole place tremble. Even the roof began to fall, due to the power of both titans, who sought to finish off the other under the incessant rain. Snape. I found two more. He said, grabbing with the help of one of the ectoplasm clones, an unconscious Kirishima and Todoroki who were quite hurt. See ectoplasm. We have to get out of here quickly, this place is about to collapse. He said, watching as All Might was thrown by the Neo Nomu against the burning area, destroying it completely. Snape. Damn, let's go now. Both run off with the students towards the exit. All this was seen by Shigaraki, who only had a small smile while a portal appeared behind him. Kurogiri. Shigaraki, the plan is working, we have everything, said appearing at his side. Shigaraki. Everything. Perfect, haha, he just smiled and stretched. Activate the drones, Kurogiri-sensei will surely want to see this. Immediately afterwards several metallic spheres began to fly all over the place. Everything is going as planned, boss. We already have everything you ordered us to look for, said a man with a top hat appearing next to Kurogiri. Shigaraki. It will be a moment to remember, he said to see how All Might threw the Nomu into the water with a blow generating a mini tsunami. This place will not resist the whole spectacle, it is a real shame, he said, noticing how there was almost no roof left, leaving the cloudy sky to be seen while rain fell wildly. What do we do now? Said a boy with black hair and stapled parts. Yes, I want to play a little more. This place is very fun. Said a blonde girl covered in blood with a big smile. Shigaraki. Everything in its time, very soon everyone will see the true power we have, and no one will be able to do anything when I save this society from its own darkness, he said watching with a smile, as both titans flew in opposite directions due to a blow. The society free of false heroes, said a man with two katanas and a ninja look. Shigaraki. With true equality and true peace, he said with his gaze lowered in a melancholic tone, we will bring that in more, he said getting up walking with a sad smile while looking at a small toy in his hand, one where we would have all been happy, isn't that right, Hyde? He touched a button that a reptilian had given him. Everyone watched in amazement as the battle that was taking place throughout the USJ, both fighters clashing their fists and sending each other flying into different areas, leaving only destruction wherever they went. But now let's focus on a pink-haired girl who is running, dodging and melting the debris that fell in her path to reach Izuku. Mina. Please hold on, I'm on my way. She was desperate, she didn't understand how everything could have gone so wrong in just a few minutes. Izuku, please hold on. She saw some rubble and immediately began to destroy it, making sure not to hurt the green-haired boy if he was there. I found you. Tears came out of her eyes when she saw the state of the green-haired boy who was unconscious and also had a large piece of metal on top of him, preventing him from getting out. I'm going to get you out of there, just hold on, Izuku. I'm going to help you. She tried to use her quirk, but she had already overexerted herself too much. Come on. Not now, please. She tries to move the rubble, but doesn't have the strength, getting more and more desperate. Why? She sees the green-haired boy's unconscious body crying. Why can't I do anything? Everyone seems to stop. The place trembles whenever it can, because of the powerful duel that is taking place. Even after so much time I'm still the same weak girl. She just rests her forehead on Izuku's while crying under the rain that filtered through. Forgive me for being so weak, Izuku, forgive me for not being able to help you, forgive me for not being able to make you remember. She just cried while the place trembled. Forgive me for not being your heroine, Izu. Elsewhere. Will you leave them alone? Do you not care what happens to them? Will you remain weak? Answer. Isn't everything that's happening enough for you to see that what you have isn't enough to win? Answer me. Do you want them to die like she did? Do you want them to fade away like she did? I know you don't want the same thing to happen to them, but… Sorry, Izu, sorry. There's only one way to change this, and that's it. You can do it, you little fool. She's waiting for you, she always has. Mina. Sorry. She was crying when she noticed how the rubble was shining, leaving her surprised. Izu, a happy smile formed on her face, along with some tears of happiness. You could see All Might's body crash against the roof of the USJ due to a blow from the Neonomu, and then fall and be received by an upward kick, making him crash resoundingly against a wall, cracking it quite a bit. Spitting out a lot of blood still embedded in the wall. My time has been up for a while, but still, he began to move until he came out of the wall, which collapsed behind him. I can't give up. Not when everyone has their trust in me. He managed to connect a monster blow to the Neonomu's jaw, so don't think he'll stop me. Without wasting time, he managed to grab the Nomu's feet and began to spin at high speed until he threw it into the sky, causing it to go through the ceiling. The Nomu recovered and began to fall at high speed, looking directly at All Might to direct its fall towards the ceiling. It was simply amazing, the Nomu with his fist preparing to give a big blow, just like All Might, both ready to end this fight and decide a winner, but… All Might. Oh no. His body gradually lost its shape. Due to this, he received a deadly punch, causing him to crash against the ground, leaving a great trail of destruction where he passed until he crashed against the stairs where he was embedded. Then Nomu gave a great roar while beating his chest like a gorilla in victory. Damn, even after breaking my limits I didn't have enough time. He had a lost look, while the drops of water mixed with his blood. Nana, I'm sorry. He tried to move in his emaciated state. There was no one thanks to the teachers who took out those who were there. If only I hadn't lost that time. He tried again to lift his hurt self until he succeeded. You would still be giving me advice. I guess I'll listen to you again, he said, getting into a fighting stance in his emaciated state with a determined look. The Nomu continued to roar until he noticed a deteriorated symbol of peace facing him in his emaciated form. Make room for me, teacher. He just raised his gaze, which was full of determination along with a smile. The Nomu only saw him for a few seconds before running on all fours towards the symbol of peace with the intention of killing him when suddenly… Shigaraki. He was the only thing he could say when a violet flash hit the Nomu, sending it flying. All Might was confused when a hand on his shoulder pulled him, alarming him when he saw that it was Ashido Mina, who had a smile. I am, she interrupts him and then pulls him to the exit. Mina. Then you can explain it to me, All Might sensei, we have to get out of here. Both ran to the exit while the whole place shook wildly. All Might turned around quickly, being surprised by what he saw in the center of the field. There was a violet flash, which released a large amount of rays of the same color around it as successor. The strongest. All the teachers were outside the USJ keeping the students safe. The place was shaking due to the constant clash of power that was inside the facilities. Some had finished falling into unconsciousness due to their injuries, leaving a small group conscious who wished with all their might that the number one hero would emerge victorious. They had been alarmed when they saw the body of the same being with which he was fighting pass through the roof, and then they all fell. They were anxious when they heard a huge bang and then silence. Only the raindrops could be heard falling along with the sound of debris falling in the distance and fire. Nezu remained silent with a serious look, looking at the doors of the place next to the hero King Vlad and Cementos, who were in the same way as him. Mina. Help please. The heroes calmed down and then became alarmed when they saw a student next to the emaciated symbol of peace. Without wasting any time, they helped lay down the weakened symbol of peace. Cement created a dome where the symbol was placed, turning his gaze to Mina, who felt she had seen something she shouldn't have. Nizo. We'll talk about this later. Tell me, does he? Mina sighs and then smiles. Mina. No, he lost. That alarmed the teachers, but don't worry, he will defeat that monster without a doubt, she said, looking at the USJ with a smile. The heroes only looked with confusion at the place from which a large amount of smoke was coming out. He is the strongest, he will always get up because he has to keep a promise, she said with a happy look. Inside the USJ, only the raindrops falling along with the sound of things burning could be heard. It was a very apocalyptic landscape due to the large amount of destruction that the previous battle had generated, and in the center of all, that there was a violet flash, which released a large amount of light of the same tone. The villains had been stunned and confused except for one. Shigaraki. He had the toy in his hand which was shaking. Gurigiri. Shigaraki, I think it would be best to withdraw. I have a bad feeling, he said worriedly, seeing the great brightness coming out of the center of the arena. Shigaraki didn't move, he just kept looking at the brightness. No one had noticed his face when he turned his back on them, his expression the one he had when he saw that brightness, the tears that formed in his eyes, his broken voice, how he squeezed the toy in his hand, his body which trembled and increased as the seconds passed. No one noticed it. Compress. Boss. Are you okay? He started to worry as he saw the glow increase when the Nomu emerged from where it had fallen. Stein. Brat, we have to get out of here now. I shouted, trying in vain to get him to react. The villains began to worry more and more as they saw how the Nomu tried in vain to hit the flash which did not move, but a barrier absorbed all the blows, no matter how many there were it did not break the barrier. Avi. Damn Shigaraki, react. He screamed desperately, seeing how the whole place shook in an alarming way, followed by small flashes the size of a marble appearing in different parts. Gurigiri. Shigaraki. He screamed in alarm as the barrier began to grow while absorbing all the thousands of flashes. The Neo-Nomu desperately hit the barrier which suddenly began to grow, making this charge retreat a great blow, but great was the surprise when it managed to pass through it. This one, upon noticing that it had entered the barrier, raised its arms to crush the origin of the barrier, and then it vanished. The large amount of flashes began to merge with the barrier, causing it to grow larger and larger, terrifying the villains as they saw how he defeated the Nomu, who tried to make their boss react, who continued to see the flash. Gurigiri, it's over, we're getting out of here. He shouted to make everyone go through the portals as he saw that Shigaraki wasn't moving, he created a portal underneath him. Shigaraki. What are you doing? Leave me. He screamed with tears in his eyes seeing the energy barrier which turned everything that entered it into dust. No, he looked directly at the flash in the center which connected glances with him. No. He screamed as he was absorbed by the portal. Everyone outside the USJ began to run terrified because little by little the whole place was surrounded by a violet and blue barrier. All the teachers ran desperately with the unconscious students. Mina had been carried by one of them who was King Vlad, who was running very worried when he saw how the great barrier did not stop until it stopped. Midnight. What is that thing? She said nervously upon seeing the large violet barrier that had stopped expanding. Nezu. Heh. Noticing how it began to flicker blue, cover up now terrified scream. All the pro heroes covered their students from the monstrous explosion that shook the entire UA and part of the city which had lost electricity. Cement created a large retaining wall which was destroyed. Due to the shock wave everyone was sent flying by it. The people in the city saw the beautiful celestial light that extended to the highest part of the sky, piercing the clouds and beyond them. Girl. Mommy, what was that beautiful light? Said a little girl with white hair. Woman. I don't know, daughter, but it was nice, wasn't it? Said a black-haired woman smiling sweetly at her daughter. Well, let's go, we don't want to keep the others waiting, she said, walking next to her daughter. There was silence at the UA. The few heroes who remained conscious after such an explosion were dismayed by what they saw. Midnight. Gee guys. She said in shock at what she saw. As if it weren't where the USJ used to be, for several kilometers there was only sand, simple sand that spread throughout the area under the little rain that fell. And in the middle of all that there he was, lying down, looking at the sky. He didn't move, he just stared at the sky calmly. You did it, little one, you did it. Izuku just smiled a little as a small tear fell from his eye, his only eye. The brightness of his gaze slowly faded until he fell unconscious. The moment after that event, a large number of ambulances and police forces arrived and went to help the most injured, all under that soft rain which was now mere drops. Neomasa. We couldn't find much to say. Apparently whatever happened here took everything there was. I need you all to help in any way you can. He understood, he said to a group of police officers who nodded and went to support him. Police. Sir, we have most of the class and 2 teachers in bad shape, along with other students with minor injuries as well as pro heroes, said a cat-like policeman who had a sheet with the data. Neomasa. I understand, well, try to help as much as you can. He just withdrew and started walking to an ambulance. This one touched and received a pass from the other side, so without wasting time he went in to see an injured symbol of peace, who had his gaze lowered. I guess you want to know what happened, right? Neomasa only saw it for a few seconds and just sighed. Neomasa. Try not to overexert yourself. Almight just sighed and started talking about what happened. Meanwhile, somewhere else. Twice. Hey. How did it go? I'm sure it went well. You lost, right? I knew it, he said, approaching to be ignored. Pumpers. We almost didn't count it, I didn't think they had such strong candidates in that hero class, he said, sitting down in a chair while sighing tiredly. Avi. I've never seen anything like that, what a class quirk that was, he said, still nervous about that power. Stein. Whatever it was, it saved us the trouble of dealing with those useless people, he said, leaning against a wall with a serious look. Toga. Really? Everyone saw Toga, who was still shaking, everyone died. There was only silence for a moment while they continued to process what had happened, then a bottle was heard breaking against the wall, causing them to jump. Kurigiri. He only saw how Shigaraki walked towards the door and slammed it hard, causing a damaged Almight poster to fall. There was silence throughout the place after that. Twice. Well, who's hungry? He said, to be ignored again. You could still see the sky blue-haired boy leaning against the door of his room looking at the doll he had in his hand, a grey rabbit with button eyes which was somewhat burned. Shigaraki. He just remained silent with a confused and sad look on his face. In another unknown place. An agitated man in a lab coat could be seen running through the corridors of a large laboratory until he reached a large metal door and opened it. Man. Sir, it's him, he said, agitated and nervous, seeing a white-haired man who was watching a big screen. So you came back, how this time you're not going to escape, a sinister gleam formed in his green eyes. Not again, Izuku, he smiled, seeing an image of a green-haired boy on the screen. I'll wait for you at the top. Several days have passed since the incident at the USJ, and many comments about the attack by the League began to be heard in all the media. Due to the attack and the severity of the injuries, classes were suspended for a time while students and teachers recovered from their injuries in the hospital. During that period of time in other places in Japan, strange events began to happen, followed by disappearances during the closure of the AU. All of Japan was shocked, and even more so when in a part deep in the forest, giant human skeletons were found burned and large traces of destruction, signs of some battle. Nobody knew what was happening. Fear increased even more when the disappearances increased, but no one paid attention to them because they were mostly unremarkable people. The heroes didn't know what to do to calm the fear and concern that existed in the masses. A mystery that no one could solve. But now we focus on the hospital where the few remaining students are, more specifically on a room where a green-haired man was resting while a doctor and nurses were checking him out. Doctor? Well, I must go talk to the family. Be alert for any sign that he may wake up. The nurses nodded and the doctor left. The doctor walked until he reached another room where there was a black-haired couple who looked worried. Woman. How is he? She looked nervous and with a sad look, while the man just hugged her in the same state as her. Doctor? Well, his wounds are first and second degree burns, internal and external lessons. He had a broken arm in addition to 6 broken ribs. He also lost one of his eyes and had a punctured lung, he said while reading the papers. The couple just broke down in tears and fear, but miraculously he was saved. I do not know what happened, but thanks to the efforts of several doctors and nurses, in addition to quirks of restoration and medicine, we were able to save him after almost 17 hours of surgery. The couple was surprised and sighed with relief. I understand that you are his adoptive parents, right? The couple only nodded. Okay, I will go for some documents and returned. He just left, leaving the couple alone. They hadn't noticed a black-haired man with many bandages who just listened to everything seriously, then walked away from the place. The blonde man with some bandages and a cast on his right arm entered the green-haired man's room and approached and sat next to him with a sad look. Izuku. I must do something. Almight just fell off the chair in shock upon seeing his successor jump out of the cape and then fall down. Ow, where am I? He said, confused without having noticed Almight, who was grabbing his chest trying to calm his heart from the scare. Midoriya Shonen, you almost killed me with an attack. I survived that monster. I don't want to die from something like that, he said, sighing, then stood up and helped his disciple up. Izuku. I'm sorry, Almight, but what happened? Said confused Almight was only surprised by that and remained meditating for a few seconds. Midoriya Shonen, don't you remember anything about what happened? He said seriously while looking at Izuku's confused face. Izuku. The last thing I remember is that I hit that monster at 100% and then everything is blurry, he said, sitting on the bed while holding his head in confusion. Wait, the others? Kirishima and Todoroki are okay? He said, worried about his companions. Both are fine, they left a few days ago. Izuku just sighed calmly. Everyone in your class is fine. He hesitated for a moment and sighed, except young Bakugo. Izuku just remained silent. Izuku? What happened to him? He said with a serious look. Almight just saw him nervous and only told him to accompany him. Both walked through the hospital corridors in silence without speaking to each other until they reached a room. Almight just stepped aside, indicating that he would pass. Izuku hesitated for a few seconds and then entered. There he was, the bully who had bothered him since childhood, the one who had hurt and humiliated him, the one who had once been his first friend on a stretcher, with a confused and surprised look. Itsuki. Deku, this one had several machines around him and was missing an arm, Vinisty. This one had trouble speaking and had a sad look on his face. Izuku didn't say anything and just grabbed a chair and sat in front of Bakugo's stretcher with a serious look. Izuku. You know, seeing you in this state gives me an uncontrollable desire to laugh, said seriously. Bakugo said nothing, just remained silent. Seeing you in such a weak state, you the one who believed himself the most powerful of all on a stretcher without an arm and with difficulty to be able to keep his eyes open, and me without an eye, he only touched a patch, is the funniest thing I have seen and will see in my life. Like someone you always despised is in front of you looking with indifference at your suffering. You know, I know that we want to be heroes and all that garbage, but that does not prevent a smile from forming on my face when I see you like the garbage that you always were, he said seriously. Bakugo just looked down while tears ran down his cheeks. Izuku just looked at him seriously. Itsuki. I'm sorry. Izuku was slightly surprised by that. For everything, his voice was breaking as he looked at the green-haired boy with regret. All this time I was looking for a way to make amends for the harm I did to you, he said with difficulty, but I didn't know how to say, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to get you to tell me what happened to you. I didn't know how to do anything. You're not useless, I am. He clenched his fist tightly. I couldn't help my mother. I couldn't find that boy that I always hurt. I didn't know how to even be a hero. I couldn't even stop that monster. I'm the useless one. The garbage. He just cried under the green-haired boy's lowered gaze. I failed again and again. Every time I didn't know what to do. I only thought, what would Izuku do in this situation? Only I could continue, only I could be a hero, and even so I failed. He just looked at the ceiling with sadness. I'll always be the same idiot kid who hurt you, no matter how much I try. There's still that memory of all the times you tried to stop me, and all the times I hurt you. He just looked down. It's the same nightmare that repeats itself over and over again. I'm not a hero, I can never be one. How could I even try to be one after everything I did to you? He just stayed silent as he looked at the green-haired boy sitting with a serious look. Izuku. Then there are two of us who won't make it. Bakugo just looked at him in confusion. Bakugo. What are you saying? From what they said, you helped defeat that monster, he said with clear confusion. Izuku just sighed while thinking. Izuku. I don't remember defeating that monster. I don't even remember what happened after it hit me, he said seriously. Besides, I have the feeling that I did something bad, but I don't know what it could have been, he said with his arms crossed. Itsuki just stayed silent as he watched Izuku get up and walk to the exit until he stopped for a moment. Izuku. I couldn't say that I forgive you for everything you did to me, but I can tell you that if you truly regret it. Izuku looked at him with a small smile, then become a true hero who helps save whoever needs it. Bakugo was only surprised by that, and when you learn how to be one, I'll be waiting for you to fight for the abyss, remember? Bakugo just let out a light laugh while smiling. Itsuki. I'll be waiting for you at the top to see who is the real number one in the whole world. I remember. Izuku just left the room. I remember Izuku. He just closed his eyes. Almight was sitting in a chair watching the nurses and doctors pass by calmly. This brought back memories of the times he ended up in a place like this, especially after that battle, where he lost the only person who believed in him. He was so deep in his thoughts that he didn't notice how a green-haired man sat down next to him. Izuku. I guess you have something to talk to me about, don't you? He said, looking straight ahead. Midoriya shonen, you have a quirk. Izuku just remained silent. I did some research, and I know you're that boy who disappeared a few years ago in the incident where your mother died. He saw how the green-haired boy just sighed while looking at the ceiling. Tell me what happened in that time. Izuku just remained silent. Izuku. Do you really want to know? He said seriously as a voice reached his mind. I will always love you, my cute little Izuku. Vague memory. Almight remained silent, thinking. For some reason that question from his successor worried him greatly. He didn't know why, but something told him to say no. Yes, Izuku just sighed with great regret and looked at the ceiling. Izuku. If I'm honest, I only remember vague fragments. Izuku just looked at the window. I don't know why, but I don't remember much about my past self. They're like dreams, or rather nightmares. All Might saw how the brightness of his successor's eyes disappeared. His weak voice, the last words he said to me, how he was his blood. I remember all of that so clearly and at the same time so blurry. All Might was silent for a few seconds. My childhood, I only remember bad things I'm not really capable of remembering good things. Even when I woke up in that forest, I don't even know how I got there. All Might was confused by that. Forest. What young forest? Izuku just looked at him uncomfortably. Izuku. I don't know what her name was. I only know that I woke up in a forest and that I walked and I walked. I think I was on autopilot at that moment because I was walking aimlessly. I even got stuck in thorns and still I kept going. Izuku looked down. At that moment it was like a flash of lightning. I remembered my mother and what she told me, and I came back. He raised his head and had a blank stare. And what she told me. What did Midoriya shonen tell him? he said sadly because of what he heard. Izuku. That I could be a hero, that I could survive no matter what, that I could live. The shine in his eyes returned. That's why I never gave up. I left that forest and came to a road where I walked for several days. The sigh. I remember that I had to kill a lot of rabbits to survive, he said, laughing a little. Cannibalism if you ask me. All Might saw that the boy was hiding his suffering behind that laugh. Then, All Might was worried when he saw that he fell silent. Then what about Midoriya Shonen? He said worriedly. Izuku. Then a man tried to kill me for a stupidity. He thought I had stolen something from him. He just looked at the people who passed by. He almost succeeded. He hit me over and over again, and he broke my arm, but I remembered what my mother had told me. He sighed and looked All Might in the eyes, and I killed him just as he wanted to kill me. All Might was paralyzed upon hearing that. Tell me one thing, All Might, before judging the actions of a small orphan boy abandoned in the forest. Where were the heroes? All Might just trembled at that. Where were I to prevent my mother from dying? Where were they when she screamed in pain? Do not judge me for something like that. Anyone can criticize and say stupid things like a hero does not kill, or it is not heroic to let people die. The true heroes are those who sacrifice even their own heart and soul to save the people they love. All Might remained silent. Izuku just saw All Might's gaze lowered as he looked at his hand. I won't. Izuku just remained silent. I could never judge that. I can't imagine all the pain you had to carry since you were little. All Might stood up and walked a little. We all have our burdens, our sins. He smiled at Izuku, surprising him. Even after all that, All Might laughed a little. Even after all that hell you lived through, you still wanted to be a hero. Even so, you agreed to be my successor. All Might held out his hand. I could never judge someone real, someone who suffered over and over again to fulfill his dream. Izuku only shed a few small tears. A true hero. Izuku just hugged All Might tightly while he cried. All Might just patted him on the back to calm everything down in that hospital hallway, an unbreakable bond between predecessor and successor. All this was heard by a black-haired man with a serious look. He sighed and walked away slowly. Isawa. This boy is a mystery. He had a really hard life. Many would have already turned against the world. I wonder. He takes out a sleeping bag from who knows where. Who are you, Izuku? Midoriya. Okay, Midoriya Shonen, now tell me, don't you know what could have caused that memory loss? Izuku just sighed and started thinking. Izuku. I have no idea. I only know that I woke up in the forest and the faint memories of when I was a child. It's not like I remember much of that either, just what Katsuki did to me and what happened to my mother and well, everything bad. A pink color came to his mind. An image came to his mind. Come on, Izu. We don't want to be late, shouted a happy little girl whose face couldn't be seen. Izuku. Wait for me. I'm coming, the little green-haired boy shouted. All you could see was the little boy running behind her, all under a blue sky. Shonen. He touched his successor's shoulder, getting him to react. Is something wrong? He asked, confused. Izuku. Yes, don't worry about that, he said with a smile while thinking about that image. I also wanted to know how he met his shonen adoptive parents. Izuku was just surprised by that. Izuku. Are you here? All Might nodded and asked him to follow him. They both walked until they reached a door. When they opened it, they saw a furious doctor yelling at some nurses who only apologized repeatedly. Doctor. You better. He remained silent when he saw Izuku and All Might, who tried to leave. You. Boy, do you know how delicate you are? You can't just leave as if nothing happened, said the furious doctor. All Might only trembled at that. But from what I see, you're better now. Thank goodness you already appeared. I was about to say goodbye to these two. Both nurses only trembled at that. Well, your parents are here. It would be better if we go to discharge you, so I don't have to see you here, he said, grabbing some papers. Izuku. What kind of doctor is this? He thought nervously as he followed him. He saw All Might, but he just gave him a thumbs up in support. I almost forgot what he looks like, he thought with a twitch in his eye. Poor Midoriya Shonen. Well, I think I'll ask him later. He walked through the halls, but received a call. Neomasa. He answered. Is something wrong? There was silence for a few seconds, and then the symbol of peace dropped the phone, paralyzed by what he heard. All Might only came out of his trance to grab his phone and dial a number quickly. Director Nezu, tell me it's not true. On the other end of the line, only a sigh was heard. Nezu. I'm afraid that if it's true, the League managed to steal all of Toshinori. Apparently that attack was a distraction, so they could steal all the information from the facilities. That means, he just looked at his successor being hugged by a couple, that everyone is now in danger. Nezu. I'm afraid so. I need you to come since we're going to have a very important meeting to talk about what to do. And have you seen the news? The news. You're referring to the disappearances and what was found in those woods. He was silent for a few seconds. I'm on my way. She ran out of the hospital to take a taxi and go to the UA quickly. Woman. We are really happy that you are okay, Izuku. You really had us worried, she said while hugging the green-haired man. Man. When we saw the news about what happened, I fainted and everything, he said while laughing nervously. Izuku? Don't worry about that, he said with a smile. Will you stay? He asked with some happiness. Woman. I'm sorry Izuku, but we can't, she said something sad. Man. We have worked hard to be able to come here, but we will be together soon I assure you son, he said with a smile. Izuku? I understand, he said somewhat disappointed, but don't worry, I know you're trying hard to help all those people, he said with a big smile. The couple just smiled and left the hospital happily heading home with their son. Elsewhere. The room was somewhat messy, with clothes strewn across the floor and half-eaten plates of food. The most striking thing was the large lump in the bed that wasn't moving until a ringtone was heard. Mina. She got out of the bundle tiredly and with a piece of paper in her hair while yawning. Who is it? She asked tiredly. Nurse. Excuse me, are you the girl who told me to give you any information about the patient? It sounded like some papers were being moved. Izukuxmina, right. It wasn't even 3 seconds after she said the name that she was bombarded with questions about whether something bad had happened or if she had any problems. Nurse. Okay no nothing bad happened, miss, I just wanted to tell you that he just left, she said somewhat nervously. Mina. Really? Screamed with surprise and relief, thank you so much for letting us know. She hung up and stood up with a big smile, a smile that disappeared when she stepped on something slimy. Wow, that's disgusting, she said when she saw that she had stepped on an old half-eaten pizza. In the shadows. Everyone has their opinion on society. Some of you live privileged lives without fear and filled with luxury and happiness, others only know suffering and pain from the moment they open their eyes and try to put one foot in front of the other. Every good thing has a dark side where you find the desolate souls left to die and be forgotten as if they had never existed. There are places where these forgotten souls gather so they don't feel so forgotten. Some grow up with a brutal resentment toward society for their bad luck, while others try to use that anger to move forward and try to change, so that no one has to suffer what they had to go through, all with one mission. To bring about a just society in which everyone can live without fear. That is the mission of most of the members of the League of Villains, all under the orders of someone with an almost unattainable goal, Shigaraki Tamura. Inside the bar are the members of the organization hanging out and planning to achieve their goal. Compress. I guess this can buy us some time while we deal with some dilemmas, right? He said while playing with some marbles, passing them from one finger to the other. Spiner. Mr. Stein specifically wanted these fakes for himself, so having them would be best to help him achieve his goal, I think, leaning against the wall. Avi. That would be a nuisance, it's better if he doesn't play games and leaves that stupidity behind. He thought while taking a sip of his drink. Spiner. Are you against the ideals of the great Stein? He began to pull out a sword while Davi sighed. Davi. I have surpassed those pathetic ideals, he lit his hand while maintaining an indifferent expression. Both looked at each other seriously, while the rest of the league remained on the sidelines until the door opened, revealing a blue-haired man who looked somewhat tired. Shigaraki. What do you think they're doing? He asked as he walked with an eyebrow raised towards both of them, who tensed up when they saw his gaze. Kurajiri. The plan that will be carried out in a few days is being discussed, he explained while cleaning some glasses and serving a drink for the newcomer. Shigaraki. I see anyway, keep in mind that this has to be as discreet as possible, we don't want anyone to notice, so you better not ruin it, sighs and drinks quietly. Toga. So I guess I have to go to the doctor with Twice, right? I asked with a smile next to Twice. Shigaraki just nodded as they both left the place, leaving the bar in silence. Shigaraki. Where is Voldemort now? He asked, earning a snort from Spiner. Spiner. Mr. Stein is cleaning the streets right now, he leaned against the wall with a somewhat annoyed look. Shigaraki. I really don't know why I bother trying to get him to stop that stupid habit, Spinner growled again at what the blue-haired man said. Avi. Leaving that aside, do you think it's a good idea to put the plan into action at that moment? He said somewhat bored while looking at the papers and photos on the wall connected by a thread. Shigaraki. Tell me Davi, if you hit a glass and it doesn't break, what do you get as a result of the glass? I asked with a small smile while playing with the small umbrella of my drink. Davi. Cracks, he had a small smile. Shigaraki. People are seeing how fragile this society based on forces that attack and everything we achieve thanks to it have allowed us to know where those fragile cracks are, they just need a little pressure, he said to crush the glass until it breaks, and this entire society as fragile as the symbol that represents it will break, leaving to light all the darkness hidden by those demons with angel masks, because in the end, we are not the bad ones, he said as he got up and walked to the door. We are the true heroes here, he said with a sincere smile, and then left there leaving behind a smiling Davi and Spiner. Compress. I'll be that hero you always wanted me to be, my little Halsey, he thought as he looked at the door where the blue-haired boy came out with a determined look. Kurogiri just remained silent, watching the interaction of the league members seriously, before letting out a tired sigh and cleaning up the mess left by the blue-haired man. Kurogiri. I hope Sensei knows what that presence was about, he thought, remembering with some seriousness. Flash black. Kurogiri, why did you call me sir? Did something happen that bothered you? He asked, looking at the chair with his back to him, where a sinister figure was sitting. Afo? I suppose you've heard about the news, haven't you? I asked, looking at some television screens. Kurogiri. That's right, sir. I suppose you needed more materials to create more nomas, right? Although it's a somewhat exaggerated number, don't you think? I give a somewhat worried opinion. Afo? That's the problem, it wasn't me, he revealed, leaving the room in silence. Kurogiri, if it wasn't you who is responsible for those disappearances, sir? He asked, somewhat worried. Afo? I have no idea, but I've felt an annoying presence moving discreetly. I don't know who could be behind it, but I don't have a good feeling. I'll just tell you this, Kurogiri, I want you to keep the members of the league safe. Shigaraki has worked hard to get what he is today, and I don't want him to fall apart because of an external threat, he said, seriously, earning a high. From Kurogiri. Kurogiri. Sir, one more thing, Afo looked at Kurogiri out of the corner of his eye, about what happened in the previous mission. I know it was a disaster, but do you have any idea what quirk that young aspiring hero had to destroy the Nomu and everyone else like that? He asked, somewhat nervously, remembering everything that happened. Afo? You said it was a quirk capable of generating a kind of force field that increased its size exponentially, disintegrating everything that entered its radius in an instant, right? I asked seriously, one last thing, that field, what color was it? Kurogiri was confused by that. Kurogiri. It was a violet color, sir, and after a few seconds, light particles of the same color appeared everywhere. Afo remained silent after hearing that while he seemed to meditate on the information revealed. After that, Kurogiri left, leaving all for one alone, who remained deep in thought while murky memories came to his mind. Memory. You are the key to bringing equality to this society, said a silhouette tying a man to an operating table, so do me a favor and help me bring about a better world, he said with a horrible smile as he took out a scalpel. Only the screams of pain of a man could be heard while nurses passed by, as if that were the most normal thing in the world. Afo? So you've reappeared, he said while clenching his fists in anger. End of flashback. Kurogiri. Something very bad is coming, he thought worriedly, seeing Spiner flattering Stein, who had just arrived. But Shigaraki. He walked down some stairs until he reached the lowest floor of the building. He looked at a painting which was mostly black. He approached and moved it slightly, activating a switch, opening a secret door which he went through, arriving at a somewhat dusty room. Shigaraki walked through the room until he reached a study table where a lamp was on and sat down to take out of a drawer a reddish diary, somewhat dirty and old. It was noticeable by the cracks and the yellowish color of the paper. He opened it and then turned the pages where deformed silhouettes and disturbing photos could be seen. He continued searching until he reached one that was the last page, which was somewhat torn. In this one could be seen a drawing of a human silhouette which was surrounded by some kind of strange energy. He read what was written at the beginning of the page seriously. Shigaraki. Let's see, whispered while reading the page. Subject's designated name. N027WX8. Power. Nova reactor. The capacity for massive energy concentration capable of destroying a city would be the equivalent of a small concentrated star. It is so dangerous and unstable that it is classified as an SSS, and its immediate detention and containment are truly necessary. Related incidents. Unknown. Number of victims. Unknown. Extra note. 8.21/6. The subject is still very young, but his abilities are interesting. I need more studies to be able to take full advantage of his power. In addition, it has been noticed that he has had a minor accident. He will be kept under observation until it is known how to proceed. Shigaraki closed the book with a lowered look and then stood up and put it back in its place. He didn't say anything and just walked towards the door, remembering what he read, to leave the room and close it. Shigaraki. There is no doubt, he said while going up the stairs with his eyes downcast. He was the culprit, he said, raising his gaze seriously, and went. I'm back. As the title says, I'm alive. I'm sorry I put this story on hold without warning. Well, I was rereading this piece of garbage and I was really too new to writing. I noticed the argumentative and spelling errors. In addition to several details that I really overlooked, I also wrote all this after barely watching the first season and had no idea about the other seasons, so I did it more or less blindly. I'm thinking of editing the story so that it's not so annoying to read, since I really had trouble expressing my ideas, hahaha. Well, what I'm getting at is that I'll be adjusting and aggravating some things. I'll also be editing some events in the story so that it becomes more interesting to read. Well, I just wanted to thank you for the support, yes. To you, the average reader who doesn't know what else to do with your free time other than read stories on this platform that seems like Disneyland for degenerates. So we'll see each other soon, of course, if I have time, because it's crap since I have a lot of things to do. Well, Shadow says goodbye. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.